And just like that, we've done it. We are live. Welcome, everybody, to Las Vegas, Nevada. We are incredibly proud of what we've got going on here. For those of you who are joining us online, we thank you for spending the time with us. If you're watching this on replay, of course, make sure to follow along, check out what chat did happen. You can, of course, follow all of us who are the hosts of the event. My name is Eric Wright. I'm part of the presenting team here. I represent the GTM Delta team. So if you want to get caught up with me, you can hit me up. I'm at Disco Posse on Twitter. Easy way to find me. And at GTM Delta team for my company. With that, John, my inimitable and amazing host, who thank you very much for pulling this together. We are building the plane as we fly it here in Las Vegas. We are live at the Vidara Resort, which is a fantastic. So thanks to the folks that make the suite available to us. John, you want to do your intro? Let us know where we can find you online, because
geez, I didn't even think you were going to give me a chance to talk. Yeah. I thought he was going to go right into it. Yeah. So, folks, everybody, thank you for joining us. My name's John Myer. I am Chief Content Creator. I was going to say CEO for, but that's just too professional for me. So, of Myer Media, here we are joined with, obviously Eric Wright from Disco Posse Podcast. You can find me on all channels: Twitter @_John Myer, LinkedIn @John Myer, YouTube @John Myer. Yes, everything @John Myer, pretty much. For today's purposes only, we are building the plane as we fly, because I'm not streaming on mine. For some reason, it's just not working. And it would not be a show if things went precisely to plan. For today and today only, you can follow everything on gtmdelta.com/live. Follow Disco Posse here on YouTube, Twitter, every other channel that you can think of. But we appreciate you joining us here for AWS reInvent 22. Also, don't forget to follow #LV reInvent 22.
Now I'm just going to quickly pop up here, because this is possible, of course, by the amazing folks that support the work that we're doing here in the community. We've really aimed at what can we do to help raise new voices in the marketplace. And when we think of where we're able to take people that are doing things, really the AWS reInvent has always been around builders, who are the people that are behind the technology and the human stories and just what we do with it. Like, I think it's the quote from the Halt and Catch Fire. He says, "This isn't the thing. Computers aren't the thing. They're the thing that lets you do the thing. That gets you to the thing." And that really is what it is. We're opening today with one of our amazing sponsors. So please do go to gtmdelta.com/reinvent. You can see all of the folks who are sharing it. And we have got somebody who's in studio with us right now. And I cannot thank you enough. So with that, I think the best thing we can do, so that I don't wreck your intro, because Rahul, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us today. If you want to give a quick intro, where you're from, what you're doing, your own background, we'd love to share your story, because you've got a fantastic story.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me over, Eric and John. This is an absolute delight. It's an amazing location. You guys have turned this place into an absolute amazing studio. And like I said earlier, I'm going to borrow all the tips about the right equipment and lighting and recording stuff.
Yeah, you got your team as well that's helping us in the support here. It's early in the day, so it's hard to get everybody to show up. We've got some folks that are going to join us in the suite as well, some other influencers and community members, just to help to. It's early. Yeah. I mean, people are arriving today, so we thought we'd get started. And again, thank you, because being able to spend time in person is such a fantastic thing. We haven't had a chance to for a couple of years. Obviously, we've been remote, not by choice, and it's good to be back on the show floor. The traffic, I think, it looked like the airports were full. We've got a lot going on. We were doing the check-in yesterday, and it was very busy. So that was fun.
But it was definitely, we had a ton of folks when you were walking through it. Rahul, I got a question for you. When did you arrive, and what was the feeling like when you arrived and going through registration?
Got it. So I've had a 30-hour travel to Vegas, door to door. So I flew in from India via Dubai, then to SF, and then into Vegas, and pretty much every flight was completely full. And then as I kind of came in, one part of me felt like I was coming to home. Like I do this. I've been to reInvents for so many years now, and just taking the same route up to the baggage claim and seeing the registration desk right there.
Did you see our tweet? Eric and I were there a little early for registration. It was the express check-in, but
right,
that was so nostalgic to see it.
So it just feels like the old event, the way they used to have it at scale. 2019, I think, was the last time that it was going to run at scale. So it felt being back at reInvent. And getting back here, and then yesterday at the registration counter on the Venetian Expo floor, that was awesome. I mean, seeing all the crowds over there, I think this is going to be a big packed audience.
Now, one thing I'm curious on, what was the sense at the show floor? Because I know this is my first year not as a presenting vendor, so it's fun to be independent now, and so I don't get to go behind the scenes. I know a couple of other shows that I've been to recently. Definitely, there's a marked difference in the number of exhibiting vendors. And how did it look as far as the expo floor and fellow presenting vendors that you saw that are here?
I think that overall numbers were probably slightly lower than 2018, 2019, but still quite a few. I don't think we had. I don't think there's much of a dip really. I think folks who had committed to coming and presenting, and being here, are all there. So it's going to be exciting. It's going to be an exciting 5 days.
It is definitely going to be. We've got a lot of stuff that's coming up, and the good news is too, because we're maintaining the hybridity, I suppose, if that's a word, of how we do things, which is it's such a boon because people that could not attend the events can really actively participate, which is going to even our chat here. So if folks do want to keep in touch, I've got a little thing on the bottom on the screen. Anybody that puts a comment into YouTube, Twitter, or LinkedIn, we're streaming on all platforms right now. The comments will pop up. We love to bring folks in. If you've got a question, there you go. Look at that. We've got lots of people that are already jumping in. So hi to you. Awesome. This is the fun part because we can extend the presence and the conversation far beyond just being in the event center. And but that being said, oh boy, it feels good to be back. It feels good to be back.
True.
Yeah, so everybody, don't mind. We are doing it podcasting style. I will have my phones out the entire time. I am taking questions, comments live in the feed, and yes, I am taking pictures because these are the moments that make the difference. So don't mind me.
Yeah. So while you're doing that, let me just introduce myself and the background here. So my name is Rahul Subramaniam. I am the CTO of Aurea and ESW Capital, and also CEO of Aurea CloudFix. We are a portfolio of about 150 odd enterprise software companies, and we got onto the AWS platform, back in the day, and I'm talking about 2007. So it's been about 15 years.
OG in the cloud
since the original S3 and EC2.
Yeah, it was. And by the way, there wasn't an IAM either.
No.
So there was no IAM, and to get an entire organization onto AWS with no IAM, that was a challenge. So, so back from then, we kind of found AWS to be a phenomenal tool to kind of innovate and grow. We went completely remote and global back in 2008, which was unheard of. Being able to do remote for a very, very large organization back then was unheard of, and AWS kind of enabled a lot of that. It also enabled our entire acquisition pipeline, and before you know it, we landed up with something like 40,000 AWS accounts that we were managing for ourselves.
Wow.
If you can imagine, even 7-8 years ago, having anywhere between 10 and 40,000 AWS accounts is quite a challenge.
Yeah.
Since you needed separate logins, no assume roles, you had so many username and passwords, one MFA user or one root user for it. And having 40,000.
Correct.
And back then, MFA was you had half the password and the other person and the other people got the second half. That was about as good as you could get.
But that wasn't even the hardest part. The hardest part was actually networking. How do you network and pair, over 40,000 accounts that use common infrastructure? Like
there was no VPC peering. There's no concept of that, right?
I mean, VPC peering was there, but it wasn't transitive.
Right.
So that means if you
had to
40,000, you had N square. You had the N square problem.
Yes.
So if you had 40,000 accounts, you did 40,000 square entries, but you can't have more than 100 entries in your VPC peering catalog. So I mean, we were running into so many different issues and trying to sort all of this stuff out. But one of the biggest challenges we had really was around cost. With all this being so distributed in nature, both as an organization and also the 40,000 accounts, people were launching machines, dynamically as they were trying to solve different problems. We were pushing the pace of innovation, so that was just causing people to launch whatever they wanted. And we were seeing our AWS bills go completely out of control. And that is when we kind of said, okay, we got to solve this problem. So we put together a SWAT team and said, okay, let's go after this. Let's go figure out how we're going to solve this problem. And we went after all the big, the standard, suspects. We pretty much bought every tool that is out there in the market, took all the recommendations, and initially we were super delighted. I mean, on an average, they were saying, hey, you're wasting 50 to 60% of your resources. So there's 50 to 60% of savings to gain. The reality after about a year of an unmitigated disaster was the fact that we got no savings. All of these changes.
You spent more in tooling to do the savings than actually get the savings?
We actually didn't get the savings. We only got a bunch of recommendations.
Oh, so no actionable. You got actionable items, but nothing that could do it. Yeah.
Correct. So we ran into multiple challenges. It was around fighting the engineering team to make certain changes that either they didn't understand or they were uncomfortable with. More often than not, these changes are disruptive. Most of those changes required major heart surgery on your applications and your setup. Hey, why don't we change this architecture? And these are like old monolithic, applications that have been built over 25, 30 years. And you take these and then you say, hey, you know what? We're going to do microservices. And you're going to go, suddenly take all of this and build it into 150 microservices. And, everyone's like, nope, stop right there. So we managed to get literally no savings whatsoever at the end of about a year. And so we took a step back and we were like, okay, we got to treat this a little differently. So what we did was we literally started looking at every AWS recommendation that came out from the beginning of time. And that's an insane number. If you've ever looked at the AWS news feeds that come up with all the blog posts and everything that they do, it's an insane. I think it's like 2,500 or 3,000 posts a year.
Wow.
So that's an insane number to go through, like 10 years of posts about how to manage certain things efficiently.
And they changed all the time or something new. Yeah. Exactly. So you had one that came out like 2 months ago, and now here's the updated recommendation because we've learned something.
Correct.
Yeah, and that's part of the challenge we often find, especially as practitioners, is that we don't think in the concept of announcements. We think in the concept of outcome and like specific task level, like tactical things that we do. So those don't always line up with the way the blog is going to go out. And so we can't read the blogs, which unfortunately for like content creators, like I know this pain really well, SEO tuning things to make sure that you can get that out there.
Correct.
But then very much like solve a specific problem and not stay with this like high level of like, the cloud is challenging.
Correct.
And you can only do that so many times before you're like, no, let's show me how it actually works.
Correct. And the other downside is that AWS has historically never been opinionated about anything, right? For anything that they post, pretty much if you look at any of the blog posts, it'll be very generic in nature.
Right.
It'll say you could do this or you could do that or you could do something else. Like a simple recommendation, like when they launched GP3 volume type, 2 years? About 2 years ago.
2 years ago,
yeah.
It was the biggest thing to kind of jump onto.
And they put out a blog post saying you can save 20%, but if you read that blog post, it reads like an 8-page long legalese.
Exactly.
It literally reads like somebody wanted to kind of make sure that you had all the data about everything, and a layperson could never read that and take away a simple, fact that if you are on GP2 instances and you're using less than 3,000 IOPS, then it's an absolute no-brainer to switch over to GP3. You have no downtimes. You have literally nothing to lose. You will save 20% no matter what, and you'll probably get better volume performance out of the box. And so we started filtering all of those blog posts and the announcements, and we started using those to build certain automation for ourselves, where we would sweep through all 40,000 AWS accounts and just start cleaning up stuff and, saving money. Now, we didn't realize 50 or 60% that a lot of the other tools were kind of promising us, because again, we were focused very much on the completely non-disruptive parts of it, but we saved 10 to 15%. Okay, in some cases 20%. So, But there was 20% that was in the bank versus 50% that was hypothetical,
Right.
right? And so it was infinitely better to get the 20% in the bank and then reinvest that in, adopting the new services, learning about them, getting teams to build the right infrastructure from scratch as we were doing new stuff. And I think that was where we found something amazing that we could kind of do on an ongoing basis. And with AWS growing kind of at an astronomical pace over the last, 5 to 10 years, where they've been adding hundreds of new API every month. It's been phenomenal. We've been able to read through all these blogs, go through all the recommendations, work with the AWS product teams to figure out the right ways to implement certain, fixes,
Right.
as we call them. And we implemented that for ourselves and got a lot of our cost stuff in control. And then last year, as we found a lot of our customers facing the same problems, we decided to package up all of this automation that we built for ourselves, and we called it CloudFix. So we are in the market offering CloudFix. It's in the AWS marketplace as well. As you can go to cloudfix.com and sign up, and it's super simple. This, like I said earlier, it was built for us,
Right.
where we had a genuine practical problem of crazy cloud costs, really hard ways of actually realizing the savings that a lot of the other tools were propagating, or proposing rather. And we just implemented it to solve a very specific problem of getting simple low-hanging fruit savings, kept the pricing super simple and trivial so everyone could use it, take that money, invest it in doing more innovative things, use some of the higher order services to simplify your applications or whatever. Just enables wasting less and operating more efficiently.
You've hit two very important things, which is number one, about reinvestment. When we talk about savings in the context of cloud, one of the biggest misnomers is like, oh, I'm going to save money, that thus my cloud bill will be less. Like, no, we know we're going to expand in what we do. And I've misquoted who originally said this, but I always love the quote that said, the cloud is cheaper as long as you're willing to pay more. And but what it really is about reinvesting in the same way of like the Tim Ferriss, the 4-hour work week. Tim Ferriss doesn't work 4 hours a week, but he works probably 80 hours a week because that's just his mindset. So what we've done is you've taken that investment and you're maximizing the value of your investment, your human investment in the cloud. And now you can adopt other services. You can spend time engineering, like adding and using new APIs, adding new platforms, adding new integrations.
Yeah.
But secondly, the most important thing is you've nailed the perfect startup story, which is solve a problem that you directly experienced.
Yeah.
And in doing so, you likely have an adjacent market of people who share your problem space. You didn't say, we want to come up with a startup, and so I've got this idea, and let's build a team and a platform around it. You really came from ground up, lived experience, proven in market with your own bloody proof points. And so congratulations, like that as a method of delivery. And obviously the company's growing fantastically. You've got really good reputation as well in the way that, the customer experience is solid. We have to nail that. Like that's when you're SaaS, when you're in the marketplace, it just doesn't get much more frictionless and seamless. And then the end results and the outcomes are there too, because like people are seeing the dollars. And I like that your honesty. We talk about like, oh, you can save all this money in the cloud. And I know there's nothing worse than having an optimization promise that can't necessarily play out to the depth of the numbers.
Correct.
And so we just have to be like, you have the opportunity to make these kind of savings. However, flavor to taste, past performance may not indicative of future results.
Exactly. But back to your other point that you were mentioning about reinvestment. I think most people don't realize that the real savings and efficiency in the cloud comes from using what I call the higher order services,
right?
Which are a bunch of the serverless stuff, managed services, or packaged services like AWS Personalize or Forecast and things like that, where traditionally, in enterprise software, we've actually written millions of lines of code that we manage, and AWS has done all the hard work to take those and turn them into incredibly scalable and elastic and reliable services that actually operate way better than anything that any company has built by themselves, because they have more data than anyone else to drive a lot of these machine learning algorithms and models and so on. So I think the real value that people don't realize is all in the higher order services. Anyone who's literally trying to do a lift and shift from their data centers, taking the same servers and dumping them on AWS, isn't going to realize any value. So it all boils down to be able to take some savings and figure out how to invest it in moving up the service stack, move up to lambdas. Like, if you really look at lambda pricing, 1 million requests into your API is going to cost you $1. Okay, like
it's not hard to do the economics on that
one. Exactly.
Right? And if you wanted to have servers that were ready to handle 1 million API requests, it's going to cost you hundreds of dollars every month, versus $1 if you built it in serverless, right? So you can get orders of magnitudes of savings if you are higher up the stack and are operating in the serverless world. But all of that takes investment. If you have old monolithic products, trying to redo them or trying to carve out, at the seams and translate them into being able to use these higher order services is going to take time and investment. And you instead of drawing from an already strained budget, why don't you save the money, take that and invest it in all these new services?
I think you nailed it. And talking about the AWS managed services, people are a little apprehensive about using some of those because then they're tied into AWS services. But AWS builds all of those to work together.
Exactly.
Okay, all of those managed services, they communicate with each other. When they say, hey, listen, now the new service like Lambda integrates with S3 and it integrates with like your WAF, and you don't have to manage that. They have battle tested all of this code. Right? They've managed all this. Now, why don't you take those savings that you're doing, right? If you do a lift and shift, there's nothing wrong with a lift and shift. You do it, but you have to improve upon that lift and shift. You want to get over there. You realize that lift and shift is going to cost you not only the same or more than your data center. You have to actually modernize the application or utilize the services from managed service. Vendor lock-in, it's not a thing anymore. Why are people afraid of it? Because seriously, you're going to get everything that's being developed now. The applications are integrated with each other. They're working. You can move them around. Stop worrying about it and get the most out of it and the savings. And I think, Rahul, you touched on it completely, is that invest in those managed services because that's where your cost savings is.
Correct. And you're listening to someone my job is to manage about 2.5 billion lines of code across our entire portfolio. Okay, so you can imagine
that's just a little over I'm not.
That's it. Hey, we can just mic drop right there. That's it.
All right, we're out. I feel a little hot just thinking about those.
So for me, I have an aversion to managing all of this code, which is now commodity. Like I tell a lot of our customers that your biggest competition is a college kid in a dorm room who can spend $100 and pretty much build an equivalent enterprise product.
Right.
Okay, which is more scalable, more reliable, and it's probably written in about 10,000 lines of backend code with all of these AWS services stitched together. And that is the real competition. They're going to be, SaaS, they're going to be cheap, they're going to be highly scalable, elastic, reliable. And if you are going to be stuck with all of this old school, heavy duty code bases, like you're going to lose the race very soon.
Right.
So it's imperative that you figure out a way to move to the cloud, leverage all of the value, which again is in the higher order services, not in a lift and shift or running a Kubernetes cluster. That's not where the value is. It's all in the higher order services. Get onto it. It's orders of magnitude cheaper than anything that you've ever experienced before. So, this is truly a game changer if you know how to leverage it. And I encourage everyone to do just that.
What I've always enjoyed is this, we're stuck in sort of the marketing terms. We'd say like the biggest competitor is status quo, but it legitimately is because we've had too many things that have just happened because they've happened.
Correct.
And it makes sense. Why would you go back and re-engineer things for an unknown future? We just keep it to the point where the lights are on and let it live. And then down the road, and then the understanding of hybrid as a pattern infrastructure pattern, particularly, not necessarily workload pattern. This is where we blew up as an industry. Everybody talked about this idea of like a single app that would be deployed across multi-cloud. Like that's not what multi-cloud is.
Correct.
Unless you're LinkedIn or Netflix or something like that. And even there, they're likely, they have an opinionated stack and they need to. That's why I like what John was saying about this myth of cloud lock-in.
Yeah,
Look, where we're locked in today. You have a physical data center with physical humans and fixed code and platforms that require license keys to upgrade. It's that there's no more. Why are you saying that lock-in's a problem? You're literally locked in everywhere you go. So let's just choose an innovative area in which that you can grow with the platform.
Exactly. I mean, lock-in starts literally at the processor level. Like most code bases are stuck with the processor. You
Right.
chose x86, you're stuck with it. Right? I mean, start there. Then you got your operating system. You wrote all your applications for a particular operating system. Wasn't there lock-in over there? Like, is it easy to take a Windows app and move it over to Linux? No, it's not easy. Can it be done? Yes. Requires time investment or whatever. But you saw a certain benefit in the infrastructure that you picked. And you should treat all the AWS services like infrastructure. They are commodity. There is literally no competitive advantage in the service itself. Your competitive advantage comes from how you leverage that service to build something new that's valuable and distinct in your own product. So you have to stop seeing these services as competing or whatever else. Think of them as commodity or utility. Learn to leverage them, as often and as quickly as possible, and focus on what is the true business value driver for your product or your application. And and for that you need investment. So get whatever savings you can, whatever you're running in status quo. Yeah, it's hard to make those transitions, but run that stuff as efficiently as you possibly can and take the savings from there, apply them to do something different.
So Rahul, I want to switch gears just a little bit. Let's talk about AWS reInvent. We're all here. It is 2022. Yes, I did call out the year.
Just in case you watch this on replay, you never know.
Yeah, well, just because, the last couple of years, we all know it's been a little, virtual, then a little smaller scale. What are you looking forward to getting most out of this session, or what do you want people to do? And I believe you have a talk. I got to call that out. I want to shout out to this talk.
The teams all in the back, they're saying like, yeah, that's right. Don't forget. So, we got a lot of things going on there.
Listen, I highlighted this talk in my cost optimization weeks, and not because. So I did not know you were doing the talk. I read the description. And I went through and I said, "Oh, CloudFix, man, this sounds like a really good one for cost optimization." Because as an ex-Amazonian, cost optimization is near and dear to my heart for cloud management tools and all that. All the partners I dealt with them. But you have a talk that's coming up. I want to talk about that for a few moments. When is it? Where can people sign up? What time is it? Let's shout out the folks.
Great. So the talk is on Wednesday at 5:35. I think it's called PRT 086.
This is why we have help here, because
the support team's in the back there. Thank goodness we have that.
Yeah, and I'm terrible with codes. So it's PRT.
Wait. You said you have 250 million lines of code?
Two and a half
billion lines of code, and you're terrible. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm not going to sleep tonight thinking I'm going to dream about billions of lines of code. I'm not going to.
I'm just going to pass it to Rahul. Let's get back to your session.
So the session is all about talking about our experience of how we've come to manage our costs. Again, managing 150 enterprise software companies, 40,000 AWS accounts over 15 years. There's been a lot of learnings that we've had, and the whole talk is going to be about our experience, what we've learned, how we deal with taking acquisitions that have typically been in data centers, moving them over to AWS, and then transforming them or modernizing them. Our approach is somewhat different to the conventional wisdom that exists today. And like the simple thing of refactoring your code base and stuff, to be honest, like I said, is major heart surgery. And most people struggle with it. We've struggled with it. We've never cracked that one. But we have alternative ways that we went about modernizing our application. We have different philosophy about how we went about it. And it's basically about all of our learning. So it's a very practitioner view of what it takes. And having done this for 150 companies now, again, over 2.5 billion lines of code, it's just me sharing a lot of our experiences and how we've gone about doing all of this stuff very efficiently. And the cost savings part of it, again, I reiterate, is completely nonstop. It never ever ceases. And so you need all the run books that you possibly can get your hands on to make sure that you're constantly staying on top of things. And at times it can get very overwhelming, right? I mean, AWS has 200 plus services, 100,000.
Well, we are at reInvent, so it will be 200.
So we don't know, how many more hundreds of APIs they're going to add. So staying on top of things is going to be really, really hard. So some of the tools, the techniques, the things that we developed for ourselves, I'm going to be sharing all of that. So please come and attend. Would be delighted to take questions. And yeah, it should be exciting.
The good news is that I think most of the talks, they actually post them online after the fact as well. So the good news is that folks that can't make it to the event, at least they'll be able to catch it after the fact. And of course, they can head to CloudFix, to the actual site. We can see, a lot of stuff is going on. And the Aria family, sorry. I get confused because we're staying at Vidara, which is across from Aria, not that Aria. The Aria is so AUREA.
Sounds the same, not spelled the same. There you go. I got you.
I would say first of all, you have a fantastic personal story in how you got here in the development of CloudFix, but managing a platform company, a portfolio company, effectively you are a platform of companies where you have to look for the opportunity where they're interchangeable, where there's the right integration points, and what's the outcome you can get, and what is we always talk about the 1 + 1 = 3 type of capability. So how do you, from an investment perspective, map out sort of what have I got today and where can I find better integrations? And then as you look to the acquisition side, I'm just curious what the process is that you go. Sorry, I'm Canadian, so I say process instead of process. I'm sure I'll get by the end of the week. I'll probably say it correctly. There you go. See, we are taking over.
Well, I've just been kicked out of this podcast.
We win by majority here. So, what is your approach in looking at what's the right opportunity where there's value in either acquiring or integrating within your own existing portfolio?
Got it. So I think that we buy enterprise software companies irrespective of trying to find integrations up front. But one of the advantages of having so many companies within the portfolio is that when you step back, you start seeing a lot of patterns. You see these patterns that you would otherwise never be able to see. And that's something that I'm going to be actually sharing at the talk as well. But here's a glimpse. Almost 80% of the products that we have custom built analytics and BI solution, whether it's a CRM, whether it's, literally any enterprise product has some form of BI dashboarding analytics, right? And in terms of synergies and, the integration, a few years ago, we kind of decided that our standard platform for BI is going to be dump all the data into S3 or Redshift, depending on what your latency requirements are for the data. Use Athena for querying the data, and use QuickSight dashboards that you can embed into any product anytime. And that's going to be the standard way of offering the BI solution, and just go delete all the other code that existed in the product, right? That's a super simple example of being able to leverage all the higher order managed services that I was talking about and being able to build a super simple pattern. And we have loads of patterns that we built over the years as we see hundreds of these products at the same time. And we've, either we come and we approach the AWS team and say, hey, here's something that would be really valuable. And so they go ahead and build some products that kind of fit those criteria, or we figure out how to stitch together a bunch of services together to achieve those patterns. So there are tons of them. We've been lucky and have had the advantage of having this portfolio that allows us to see these patterns more than others.
You can see them emerge. Well, and this is what's is very interesting. You have a distinct advantage because you can run more tests and you can observe patterns at a scale that is. Yeah. So you have the more you invest, the more you go through this, because you're looking at each individual portfolio company is where's the opportunity to optimize this particular company, to bring it to health, to bring it to growth, and ultimately, then make a choice as to, what the continuous, operation pattern is going to be for that. And, like you said, where's integration? But then when you look at every service, that mindset applies. And it's funny, a great comment that came in from LinkedIn. So shout out to Owen, also, who reminded us that he says they say both process and process in Seattle. So thank you, Owen, for keeping me and Rahul honest. Says people struggle because they don't understand API call flow and the proper abstraction. So abstraction is both at a portfolio company level and a product level and a code level, like finding the right abstraction. How do you look at a problem and then choose what's the right abstraction at which you can approach that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for us, I go back to Martin Fowler's book where he talks about seams in your products.
Anybody, you just won the internet right there. Anybody who shouts out Martin Fowler is fantastic. I've been a follower and reader of Martin's stuff. I got asked about promise theory one time in an interview, and I was like, I'm both amazed and horrified about what I'm about to go through and trying to explain how promise theory applies to deploying OpenStack infrastructure.
Exactly.
So shout out to Cody Bunch, who made me do that one live. Thank you, Cody.
But back to finding seams in your products, that becomes really important. So we have a dedicated team that when we acquire a company, their job is to go find all the right seams. And like I said before, over the years we built a few patterns that we look for. So BI happens to be one of the patterns where we know if you can find a good seam, we'll just slice out all the BI stuff, and we know how to replace it with the standard pattern that we put together. And similarly, personalization, forecasting. There are a bunch of these standard AWS services that we stitch together to do certain things. And we just, leverage that to refactor or modernize a lot of these applications with these patterns. Now, if you just want to do it at the API level, it's incredibly hard because, again, like I said, there are over 100,000 API at this point, and figuring out how to make them all work well together is hard. My advice is go look for a standard pattern, which is a business use case. So BI is one of them, forecasting. You've got patterns around, related data. So one of the other things that we found to be a very interesting pattern is separate out your transactional data store with your analytics data store. So if you started adopting DynamoDB as purely a transactional data, your OLTP data store, right? It's incredibly scalable. You don't really have to worry about it. Yes, you do have to spend time to figure out what schema you need up front based on the use cases that you're going to have to drive. But that thinking that you have to put up front, yields loads of benefits down the road. So it's absolutely worth putting in that effort up front. So doing things like that, where you separate out, your OLTP data store from your OLAP data store, and do them, do these operations distinctly. Take out all your relational stuff, put them in a different place, like a NetData store or whatever. It almost feels at times like untangling this big, hairy wool that's got all entangled, and separating it out makes it easier to grasp and understand things. One of the biggest issues that we've seen is, back in the day, I won't name the vendor, but they are known for their relational data stores. And one of the big things that they propagated was, hey, do as many stored procedures as possible, and then bring a whole lot of your business logic into your stored procedures. And I think that just completely messed up applications and just created so much cohesiveness in these products that it's really hard to untangle them. But if you really rethink all of your products and start thinking of them as different functionality, your OLTP is separate from your OLAP and separate from your related data. Keep them all separate, create specific functionality, tie them all together. I think you achieve far better reliability, scalability, and at the same time, anytime you want to change or pivot or take an agile step forward, you are not sitting and performing this major heart surgery anymore, right? And this actually goes back. It is very interesting. So Werner Vogel's, I think last week or the week before, he posted on All Things Distributed, which is his blog. He posted the original Amazon manifesto.
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that. He posted that out there. Actually, it was reshared out on Twitter too.
Yeah, so it's a fascinating read, even though they created this 20 years ago. But I would urge everyone to read it. It's absolutely fascinating. And it goes back to a lot of these beliefs that you have to think in a very distributed manner in terms of what is the functionality you want to achieve. don't try to dump everything into one system and try to make it the jack of all trades. It doesn't work. In the long run, it just comes to bite you. So yeah, it's basically the same philosophy that we apply to how we think about our products, the patterns, the abstractions, and we build around that.
So Rahul, that is a very insightful thing. It's basically thinking before you act and have a plan before you do it and try not to cram everything in together. I know we have just less than 5 minutes. We have to wrap things up. I know you have a busy schedule happening. Your talk that's happening. Real quick, when you mentioned your talk, it didn't come across as a CEO type. It came across as a practitioner, somebody who is down there hands-on with the folks and really wanting to help them. Not, hey, look at us do this because we've been through the problems. We honestly want to help you. So I love that perspective from you and how you came across. I encourage everybody to go check it out. If it is fully booked, stand in line. Don't worry. 5 minutes after, they will let you in because people reserve things until the 10th. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about before we wrap things up? Anything that's happening here at reInvent, your team's doing, you're looking to get out of it?
We have a bunch of events going on at CloudFix during the next 4 days or 5 days. So please come to the CloudFix booth at
what's the booth number?
3252. Yeah, this is why we have shout out to the amazing folks that actually make this happen. And I know as somebody who I've done event management with my teams before, and it truly is a village approach to everything. And I've got incredible respect for how your whole team works together, and everybody does everything. And I just, it warms my heart to a degree that no one can understand because and your own personal approach to it comes through, and the respect you have for your team and the outcome and the customer. It's like, that's why you'll be successful whatever you do. And you're obviously going to work to get there, but I do appreciate all the approach that your whole team
has. A big
has.
thanks to the team. And of course, like you said, I am hands-on with code and stuff like that. And I have an absolutely amazing team that does all the other stuff, and couldn't be more grateful to have that team and be here.
They are an awesome team. We've had the pleasure of working with them. I mean, top notch. Stick around. I am. You want to raise? We're live, by the way, so we can. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, we've actually, and the cool thing
like
too.
Put it on the spot. I'm just kidding. They're an awesome team on that. I really appreciate it. Is there anything else I know you got the booth, you got the talk that's happening, you got events that are kicking off and sessions. Anything else you'd like to share and leave with the audience? Because I think this is really important to get to know you as a person. That's one of the key things I love working on and doing these podcasts is actually humanizing the person behind the brand. And, when I go to actually purchase or work with a product, I work with the people, not the product.
Yeah. And somebody actually brought up a great point in the chat. It says like often this Owen from Seattle there. I feel like a radio caller. We got Owen calling in from Seattle. So often they
long time listener, first time caller.
Exactly. Often they cut the questions from the talks so that you always want to watch. And that is an unfortunate part is that the interactivity, the real talk happens when the microphone's getting pulled off your shirt, and then the next hour you spend talking to 10 people that you can deeply engage with. So I like that we can do that at the expo booth or here while people are on the ground. So yeah. There we go.
So yeah, there are actually 3 other things that I wanted to mention. The first one is we, of course, hosting the FinOps Roundtable this afternoon. So if you're around, please come down.
You had me at FinOps.
So we have the FinOps Roundtable where we're going to talk about all of this stuff. And again, share a lot of experiences from the practitioners. So please come, please register. We'd be delighted to have you there. And it's going to be a live Q&A session with JR, the executive director of the FinOps Foundation, Haley from
they're a great group too. Yeah, oh boy, awesome the FinOps team, I've worked with them through previous work.
So they're all
going
to be there, and looking forward to it. Second, we have a podcast that we do called AWS Insiders.
All right, that's
it. We love to share all of this learning and this knowledge with everyone else. And Stephen Barr and I do
Stephen, come over here real quick. We're gonna squeeze. I know I said. I apologize. I said we're wrapping up, but we got to get Stephen real quick. Stephen, throw on the headset and join us.
This is how you know. This is how we roll here because
Stephen Barr, give a quick shout out, introduction, say hello to the crowd.
Now, Stephen, we've been lucky enough to meet yesterday on the floor, and I know you got a busy week ahead, so thank you for joining us as well for this. So yes, scoot up on here and
don't be shy. Just watch the camera. Yeah, we are all taped down, but hey,
this is how we roll here. We move fast and break things. They say, right? We'd like to do less breaking, but lots of moving fast.
All right, Stephen, go ahead, give us a shout out.
Hello, my name is Stephen Barr, Chief Evangelist for DevGraph. And Rahul mentioned we've got our great live stream, the AWS Made Easy Ask Us Anything live stream. We do Tuesdays at 9 a.m. And it's funny, you mentioned, Eric, the radio call. My vision for that is to make it like the car talk of AWS.
Nice.
And we're helping that along over there.
That's the way to go. And we kind of, I poke fun at the self all the time, but this is how humans interact and engage, and it is engaging. That's why I love that using the podcast format, using the live stream format. It is a great way for people to directly interact.
Correct.
And I used to phone in sometimes to those like radio call-in shows, just because you never know where it's actually real when those people get in, because you hear sometimes, but like they're fake callers or whatever. But this is a chance for people to really interact with you, and you're both hands-on.
Absolutely.
And you literally have lived the experiences of the people, which is, again, our focus here is practitioners for practitioners. There's a lot of fantastic media that's out on the show floor talking about the business layer and the sort of like hanging at the economic layer, which we didn't get a chance to dive into, but I'm sure we'll have you back, Rahul. We'll have some post-podcast as well.
First of all, Rahul's got to definitely come back. Stephen, you got to come back. I know you guys got to get going for a couple of things.
Yeah, but sorry, Stephen, let's jump on.
Yeah. Stephen, go ahead.
No, I'll be back next time. I guess the really fun part about AWS Made Easy live stream is that we use our own tools to iterate on it and make it better. So we've got automation powered by DevFlows, DevSpaces, and AWS services to help us accelerate the process. It's been really fun using AWS to make a podcast about AWS.
That's cool.
AWS Made Easy podcast. Everybody, you got to listen to this. First of all, I love how they break it down. They have that conversation where they pick some of those topics that are going on. It is literally like our podcast. It's probably better because they're just like goofy like us.
Any podcast is better than my podcast. I'm just here to listen, and just so happens that a bunch of people also like to listen to those conversations.
All right, so let me wrap things up with just a little bit. I want to give a couple of shout outs. You're on the Cube, right? You're happening on the Cube. You want to talk about that for like 10 seconds? Because I know
let's give a shout out to the folks over there.
So we are going to be at the Cube, and I believe this is tomorrow.
I have November 30th at 10:30.
10:30, and
thank God I have a crew back there helping out.
And of course, thanks to the team for keeping me on schedule with everything. There's just so many things happening. But we're going to be talking with AMD.
Yes.
And some very exciting stuff happening there. So tune in.
Wait, did we just get breaking news? Wait.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I'm getting live feed right here.
We won't leak anything, but people
so we have some very exciting conversations going on there at the Cube tomorrow. And
AWS on air live stream the 29th.
Correct.
Right.
That's the other one where we are going to be
I don't know what day it is. I just know it's Monday, but it's right now. But I think that's tomorrow, right?
That
the
is
29th.
That's the only thing that I do know, especially it's because it's my birthday tomorrow, so I remember that day.
Hey, I'll spoil it. The big 50 right here.
I know exactly. I'm officially half a century year old, yet not smart at all from any of those years.
Yes, we're doing this one. Rahul, so that is the lineup. I mean, right? You got the Cube and the AMD, AWS on there. You have the speaking session Wednesday. Oh my God, do you have any free time? How are you making time for this? By the way, folks, this is only slated for 30 minutes, and we've taken up enough.
Well, that's the problem. We used to call it the Howard Stern close, where like everybody be like, just squeeze in one more question. Next thing you know, people are standing outside their office, listening to their radio through their car window, looking at their boss, wondering why they're standing in the parking lot. So
Stephen, thank you so much for swinging in here for a last second, right? Well, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it, giving us the insight on ARIA CloudFix and what you're doing here and your personal perspective, not only to those on the ground, but the practitioners that are hands-on. I love the motivation. I love the energy coming from you. And we really appreciate it.
Excited to do this. So please come by. Please come and meet with us. We have an entire team both on the show floor and reach out to cloudfix.com. Set up a meeting. We'd love to talk to you. So
we've definitely been, it's an honor to share a microphone and some time with you both. We'll let you get going. I'll do the winds down here. We'll get you folks off. We'll see you again throughout the week, of course. And again, as mentioned, so of course, yeah, thank you to all of the, this is how bad I can't remember which camera we turned on. We've
now it's the single around. Ones. Man, so, I can leave.
That's it. Now you can let everybody go. So for folks that are watching live, of course, we are continuing to stream. Thank you for all the comments we've had. This has been fantastic. We love the interactivity. That's why we do what we do. Of course, make sure you do go check out CloudFix. We're gonna have lots of social media, so you can follow hashtag LVReinvent22 on Twitter. Drop us a tweet, anything you want to say. We love being able to connect with folks. And of course, do go to the booth, go see the folks at CloudFix. And we've got so much stuff that's going on that's coming up. We've got more streaming goodness. We're going to take a quick break right now and give everybody a chance to wind down. So the stream will stay up. We're going to take a little 5-minute break here. So if you have any questions along the way, like I said, drop them in the chat. Thank you all the folks that are doing that. We, of course, are presenting here. So I'm Eric Wright for representing for GTM Delta team. If you're looking for anything around technical content and product marketing, go to gtmdelta.com. And for podcasting goodness, I also have a podcast. It's Disco Posse Podcast. Always love being able to have amazing folks like Rahul on the show and John. Also, of course, an amazing podcaster, so go to johnmyer.com. And if you are here in town, swing by Vidara. We're going to be live streaming every day from 8:30 until 11:30. Then we've got some expert panels. We're going to publish those after the fact. We love being able to have folks hosted here in the suite. And if you want to see, of course, you can go to gtmdelta.com. You can go to the reInvent link, and you can see everything that we're doing. And just come on by. So go to gtmdelta.com/reinvent. If you're in Vegas, we're doing daily run groups every morning at 6:30. We're going for a 5K run. Had a great run this morning. We saw Elvis very literally. He met us at the site. So very, very cool. And if you want to be part of our coffee exchange, also we're doing community coffee exchange. We get a lot of fun. So just go to gtmdelta.com/reinvent. There's a big link on the front there about where everything is. And with that, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to wind down for a few minutes. And thank you very much for watching. And we'll be back in 5. And just like that, we're back. All right. Thank you.
All right, I'm good.
Thank you, folks. We had to take a quick break there. I want to give a huge shout out to Rahul and Steven and the entire team from ARIA for joining us. So again, just do make sure you head on over to ARIA, check out all of the portfolio that they've got, and of course CloudFix solves a really particularly challenging problem. So we're very happy that they were able to join us and stay actually longer than originally planned as well. We've got a lot of stuff going on. So let's just do the quick recap. If you're just joining us, of course, if you want to see anything that we are doing, we're live streaming every day for 3 hours a day, 8:30 to 11:30 Pacific time.
And unfortunately today only on Eric's channels, but we'll get them. Yeah. We'll get it fixed. Yeah, hey, if that's the only issue we have today, I will take it.
If there's anybody with from Restream watching the stream, that'd be fantastic. Could you just give us a little?
Yeah, I want to fix why it is. I should be streaming on mine, and we did it in our pre-session, but now we can't do it in our live session.
If anyone from Restream can slide up into our DMs, it'd be fantastic because we do need a little help. We're here in Las Vegas at Vidara, one of my favorite properties ever. I'm saying this just as my personal enjoyment of it's a fantastic property. We're here in the media suite. It's a hospitality suite. We're very happy. It's a great place to host. We've got room. We're going to be hosting some influencers as well. We have a room that's quiet at the moment because it's our travel day for most people. So we're definitely going to be seeing more and more folks. If you do want to join us in the suite, just drop us a DM, drop a comment on LinkedIn. Reach out to the team so you can follow me. I'm at Disco Posse on Twitter, and would be happy to bring you up. Join us. We've got some breakfast snacks for the morning. We've got some great coffee, and
well, you can follow me on at John Myer. Hit me up in the DMs if you guys want to join us here in the room live. What's happening? Watch some of the content. I am actually watching the reInvent ticker right now. We got 24 minutes until things actually officially kick off here on Monday. Yes, the keynotes kick tomorrow, but sessions are happening today. You're going to see us actually commenting and joining into a lot of conversations through LinkedIn and Twitter. Don't mind me. I will be on my phone, on my laptop, jumping into the conversation to give you the most up-to-date information that's happening here at AWS reInvent 22. Also, Eric, I want to give a huge shout out to our crew that's helping us. I did bring my family members, my daughter and my lovely wife. They are managing the situation behind the scenes, getting you upstairs, coordinating all the stuff because we wouldn't be possible without them.
100%.
And I got to give a huge shout out to you, Eric, for joining me in this crazy plan to bring it live to everybody. We are definitely. If you think this is highly organized, we just. How do you say it?
We like to say we make it up as we go along. We've definitely put a lot of work, and the whole team has come together in a fantastic way. Originally, our hope was to come here and be able to collect fantastic folks who, I often talk about sort of influencers and really the strong technologists that are doing amazing stuff in the tech community, in cloud and cloud native focus, being that we're here at reInvent. So we thought, what can we do where we can bring people together with technology, have great conversations, we can give them a place to hang out, recharge, and if anything, maybe introduce new people to the Twitter sphere, to the vlogosphere, the blogosphere, whatever, all these spheres. Can we bring new voices up to the community that may not have had an opportunity to be upfront in the past? And I'm definitely, as I see more and more, my own background that led me to doing blogging, which came up through the VMware community, and seeing a lot of my peers in that community now moving over. We're looking at cloud and cloud native, meeting John in what we were doing, both in general, podcasting and events, and doing some of the stuff that you were doing.
I wasn't originally doing this. This was not my career choice.
It
chose me.
It's none of our. Yeah, this is definitely a thing that people often, they're like, "How did you choose to become what you are?" Like I didn't. I'm not even sure what I chose to do, but here we are.
I actually only think I know you as a podcaster. Like we did work together for a short.
We worked together for a minute. That was pretty wild.
And then we both said, we're out. We're going to go do this thing.
Yeah, luckily, I mean, the one thing you find is the evolution of technologists and people in this world that we forget. And I kind of don't even really care too much about knowing someone's email address other than to contact them, because the name that's on the email is less important than what those humans do. And we're seeing this, we talk about community as a community of practice. People that have a common goal, they're using common technologies. That's a great chance for us to get together, share stories, because if you can save yourself some of the hard yards by listening to folks that are doing similar things to you in the market and in technologies, it's such a huge boost for you as a career. And at the same time, we suddenly have found new voices, new people that have so much to bring, and we've helped them to make transitions into new careers, into new media. It's been a big boost for this. So I'm pretty proud. And I mean, it's you, like all you people who are watching and watch our recordings and listen to the podcast and join us at these events. We literally could not do this without all of you. So thank you.
Yeah, huge shout out to everybody that is watching, all three of you. No, just kidding. If you've got any questions or comments during this whole entire event, right? If you want to find out more, not only from our guests, but our sponsors that are joining us, and tell you what, we're going to have a bunch of people that are joining in for the conversation throughout the week. Drop a comment below. Unfortunately, I have to drop it in for him, but you can DM me. I'll get it out there. I'll ask it. If you've got my cell number, text me. I'll ask it live if it's worth it. But don't worry, folks. We want to get you the most live day information that's happening while the folks are on the ground. We are live streaming every single day. all the way to Thursday. We're bringing you some awesome content, but some great guests. You, the practitioners, the developers who are there on the ground for this huge learning conference, we want to hear from you. So reach out, shout out, follow our hashtag LV Reinvent 22 for the most up-to-date information.
Yeah, and with that, the good news is because we are running a dynamic shop here, we're going to bring some new folks to the microphone. If you do want to join us, of course, like I said, just head on over. We're streaming every day from 8:30 to 11:30. If you want to come over early and hang out with us, we're generally open the suite about 8 o'clock. You can come in. If you're with me on the morning run, it's super cool because I go for a run every morning. We meet at New York. It's an area. It's really in front of Shake Shack. You can follow hashtag VFit, and that's what we're doing to make sure that we can, build fitness into the way that we, treat events. So it's been a lot of fun. We had a great group this morning. I should post up the picture just because it was so fun. So just follow hashtag VFit, and you'll be able to see that. And if you want to be able to come and hang out with us in the suite, we're doing keynote watch parties. So effectively just come in, relax. We've got an amazing set of swags. We've got some shirts. We've got our own show event shirts. We've got our partners who are supporting the event. So this is really, really cool. I love the chance for us to be able to introduce new folks. And this is exactly why we love to do it, right? So shout out to Owen, one of the amazing folks who joined us early already in chatting. All right, here's a question for anybody selling or using an API gateway. How do you resolve an internal redirect, which can be done in any language framework, bypassing the security in the API gateway? Now you're about to open the doors. I love this because this is a problem that I've bumped into where as we start to layer APIs, good golly, this is one of the issues we often have. Every transition that has to go, especially, we're dealing with multiple languages. How do we ultimately not transcend the API security because of the way we're actually bringing traffic across that pattern? So it's a good question. So people definitely, if anybody wants to drop a comment too and get involved. Also, again, Owen's fantastic. So I love the questions like this. We have a fantastic practitioner community. I probably should have a Discord set up because that kind of seems like the place where most people meet these days. And we may actually look at that as a route in order to keep people connected because it's incredible. These communities are continuous and they're online. That's always fun too. I got to, we've literally got our room. We've got some new guests that are about to join us. We're doing the preload as we get things going, which is a lot of fun. And thank you to all the folks. So if anybody wants to drop that and then, and stay in touch, we'll make sure we dive in. And I'm curious, there you go. Here's a question. Since you're watching online, because I know you're commenting, have you got a specific API gateway? Is there a specific challenge you've seen around this? I've looked at a lot of specific security platforms, and we've actually got some folks that are in that space that are joining us for the event, which is kind of cool. And we can definitely, take those questions. We're going to keep them. Because we're streaming every day, there's lots of ways we can stay connected and stay interactive. So, John, we got someone who's about to join.
Yeah. So in a few moments, Tia Dubussion from Belle Fleur Technologies will be joining us. She's actually just getting situated. That's why I was off air. This is a very dynamic event. We're taking pictures and doing all kinds of awesome things. Guests are joining us throughout it. You're going to see people pop into the video back and forth. We're going to pull them in. We are slightly organized as that we tell people to show up. And when they get here, we're going to bring them onto the stream and everything. But so I will be popping in and out of it because Eric's managing the feed over here and I'm managing people in the feed over here. So don't worry, folks. We're going to bring you the most up to date. We're going to give you all the information. Tia's going to be joining us here in just a couple of minutes. And then next up after that, we have Ezra Charm from N2WS. Hey, can we get a feed from the?
Exactly.
All right.
Wait, it's it. And Ezra, it lives up to his name. He is as charming as he is fantastic. As
give a wave. You're on the live stream. There you go. All right.
This is fun because this is the first day we've been here since Saturday morning.
What day is it?
I believe it's Monday. So with the event, because we have a lot of supporting sponsors and community sponsors that have helped us out, it's pretty cool. So we're going to make sure that we spend time on the ground with everybody. But people are arriving now because tomorrow is the beginning of the sort of official It's just content today. We've got some talks that are going on that people go to
lots of
reInvent.
stuff.
But tomorrow begins the official keynotes again, so make sure you watch those keynote streams. We're going to be co-streaming, or sorry, adjacent streaming. I guess we're going to be streaming commentary, which we think is kind of more fun because it's stuff that's important to the technologists.
Yeah, this is going to be an awesome event. I can't wait for it. I'm going to step out for 1 second, make sure our guests are ready to go, and then we're going to pull them on because we got lots to go.
Now, the fun part for all of what we're doing here is we've got, again, I got messages coming in. We're going to have people that are going to join us in the suite here. We really have made a point of connecting people to do great things. Also, speak to people. I bring up, thank you to Owen. Yeah, this security hole, absolutely. This is a security hole in every site that uses an API gateway. Unfortunately, now you effectively have code that has abstracted away security. And some would say that's the wrong type of abstraction. So I have had this specific issue where I've built something in effect that now there's no authorization at the front end. So I can put any set of code in front of it, and the authorization is buried in the API gateway connection. So that is an interesting challenge. Would love to see that. And look at that. So we're setting up here, and this is pretty cool. We are so happy because we're being joined today by the dynamic and fantastic Tia. So put on your headphones there. Sorry, I know this is the.
So listen. We are.
This is the hard part.
Doing all this stuff at the same time because we are the team.
I love it. It looks great. I saw it before I came over. It looks nice.
Yeah, so you want to scooch right up on
the come on
microphone.
closer to the mic. Don't worry, it doesn't bite us.
I know we spend an unfortunate amount of time in front of microphones with headphones on, so it's a little bit easy. Yeah. We're so used to it. Your ears are gonna hurt in about 12 minutes. I'm just gonna warn you, but we'll. All
right, so listen,
for the heads up.
I gotta do a shout out, Tia. I'm not gonna say your last name because I do not have that French accent for it. So Tia, I'm gonna let you do the introduction, and thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Tia, take it away.
Well, hello everyone. Welcome to Vegas Live. This is so much fun. Thank you guys for having me. My name is Tia Dubussion, and I am the co-founder and president of Belle Fleur Technologies.
Now, Tia, as a fellow, I'm a half-assed francophone. My mother was from Paris, and so I've got a lot of bilingual folks in my family. So I'm used to that. So it's so good to hear a fantastic French accent joining us and talking technology at the same time. So I've loved that. All the work that you and the team are doing, because you're solving very specific human challenges. And John and I, we really focus on this a lot of like what are the human problems and the human outcomes that we can generate. So for folks that are brand new to you and Belle Fleur, let's talk about what you and the team are doing, what the approach is, and then we're going to dive in.
The team and I are trying to help companies tell the best data story. And beyond the data story, really dive into the insights to really then drive that decision making. That's at the heart and soul of what we do around analytics, and now getting into machine learning quite a bit for some of our more mature customers, right, on AWS. For us, it's always been about the data since inception. We were taking you back to when we first started. That's really how I made my shift. I'm a microbiologist by trade, and so dealing with data quite a bit in a manual
Natural
way.
progression into technology, of course.
Natural progression. I saw where technology was really starting to intersect into my life and into my role as a scientist, and I had a decision to make, and I think it's the same decision that a lot of our customers have to make. They're at a crossroads. Do we actually do something with this dark data, and what is it that we're going to do? We know we need to have that crystal ball to tell that, make the decisions of tomorrow today, but what's the roadmap? What's the bridge to get there? And for me, the bridge was basically I dropped out of the workforce for 2 years. Not suggesting that for everyone, but I was able to do that at a time, this was like over a decade ago. And my husband at the time, he's a computer scientist. And I told him, I said, listen, I saw where I could have insights before I even go into the lab to even start my work and to know how successful we're going to be in, treating a certain bacteria. And he said, no doubt in 10 years, every industry will be data driven. And I think we're seeing that very well. I think I'm excited to be here at reInvent to see AWS is also obviously picked up on that.
They figured some stuff out. But I can say early on, we always had this interesting challenge of when you found a company, you solve a very specific problem. You like often we'll say like it's you have to begin with a very targeted, market area that we've got an addressable market. You solve a specific problem that people, you have a pain, we have a solution, we can connect that solution to the pain, have an outcome of value, whether it's economic or data or whatever, some level of business value, and then we often solve a very specific tactical problem in doing so. And then I used to always joke, said there's nothing worse than on day one, people would welcome Amazon, welcome to the stage, and you'd get a handshake and we'll talk about the story of company X. And then on day two, Werner would do the keynote talking about how he just launched a service that looks exactly like company X from yesterday. And you think like, oh, but just because the pace of innovation, they obviously see in their market, because you build on their technologies and many other companies do that, it makes sense. But they've been profoundly better in the past few years, I believe, at partnering and listening and understanding that partner ecosystem allows them to grow and scale. And but data, this is one of the biggest things. So I worked in financial services for a couple of decades, and people would be surprised. Like the biggest SaaS platform I said ever, the most successful software product in history is Microsoft Excel. And it's if they broke out Excel online, that could be that it would take over Snowflake, it would take over AWS. Like more people run their businesses on Excel, and the reason is because it's a familiarity of the front end, a dangerous level of capability in like we put too much data behind it. And I saw people that were like doing midday restores because they had data models that are built on Excel. I'm like, you're managing $17 billion in investments off an Excel file that's 4 gigabytes, but the technology wasn't there. We didn't have anything to go to. And now it's here. Yeah. And biology, like first of all, obviously lived experience, you bring that to the problem set, which is fantastic. But like the technology is, I think, just is here and we're doing things with it. So how did that feel? It's like when you started in microbiology, that probably wasn't even available. There was no option of like, can we use this data at large to find patterns and insights?
Yeah, you had to burn a lot of hours, right? And
a lot of late night hours doing those spreadsheets.
A lot of spreadsheets, a lot of research, right? Data and analytics and the technology, as you mentioned, it has fundamentally changed the game, not just in biology, but you mentioned the finance sector. That's one of our largest industries that we get to focus on. Healthcare, manufacturing, and logistics, right, are really going all in on we have this data. How do we get the insights out of it? How do we get it to a point where now these insights are self-service, right, within our organization, across the organization? No more having the marketing department, the accounting department have to be data wranglers, right? Yeah. AWS actually has a service, Data Wrangler. So, I mean,
appropriately named. They're getting cuter with the names. They've been listening to Corey Quinn.
Does it start with AWS or Amazon?
Yeah.
That is the trickier part. Yeah, I'd have to actually put that to the test online. But you're seeing that now people can actually get back to their traditional, like if your degree was accounting, you literally could lean in all 100% on accounting and really start to, I think we're just now scratching the surface on some of the decisions that can be made by these decision makers because they no longer have to spend all of their time just trying to wrangle that data, as you mentioned, into Excel spreadsheets, and from the Excel spreadsheet into some sort of a PowerPoint for the board meeting on Friday. I think, a lot of our customers lean in and say, hey, we know we have errors. So now you have low confidence, right? When you're actually delivering this message. And so I think Insights helps you to feel confident, right? When you use this technology, it also helps you to feel accomplished.
Right.
You are actually able to use your degree and really go very deep and not just scratch the surface because that's all the data that you have available to you because that's all the time you actually had in the week, literally. Now you can use some of these services and literally you can do things that would take you weeks in minutes, days.
And the
to
idea
fully
of,
visualize the data that's available to you as quick as, like, I know Belle Fleur on how you guys handle it and work with customers to see their data as quick as possible and to get the most out of it, but you really understand what they're looking to do and achieve, and getting that data in minutes, you understand the process, you understand all the data that's available, is amazing.
but the idea of two of the advancements on what we can do with that data. So you put the data in a way in which it's easily consumable, and like foundational changes and being able to do like one-shot learning and machine learning, and the accuracy level that's moved up because of all the broad long-term learning and modeling that we've done that can drive more accuracy in one-shot capability. And yeah, I mean, we still can't tell the difference between a Pomeranian and a blueberry muffin, but hey, it's funny, as somebody who's a content creator, as a company now, one of my favorite things, my co-founder sent me a picture. He says, "This is why we'll never be replaced by AI," because they said, someone said, like, it's one of these like NFT art things. Show me a picture of a salmon swimming upstream, and it was literally like a salmon fillet it showing in this upstream, and it was so. I was like, "That's it. I still have a job for a while." So, but
Yes.
the technology can move to a point, and then the human intervention, I'll say, so the human interaction begins, and especially when you get into biosciences, finance. If we let the markets move by themselves, it's risky. We've seen like strange spikes, like in finance. I lived through that, where a bad tweet goes out, and it can literally just evacuate the market of trillions because of HFT. So there's risk in doing that. So we generally like to do things, but gate it of a human decision. But if you don't have the right data to get to the human decision, it's all anecdotal. And so what's your
Well, let me jump in there real
Yeah,
quick. I know this is so live, and you know what? We're doing things on the fly. I know we're waiting for a guest. I believe Trey is downstairs. I have to interrupt because he looks like so my contact downstairs has said, there's a guy that looks like he's waiting for somebody. Is there any way you can drop Trey a message real quick and say, hey, listen, see the prayer. Yes, we're
Sorry,
live. So, and the good thing is we are live and we are podcasters, so we can fill the time while you're doing it. And I'm just
we found this problem before too. Even when I was doing stuff on the expo floor, it's always like somebody gets here and they're like, I don't have a pass to get in, and unfortunately, there's no expo passes. So shout out to the folks at AWS. For goodness sakes, can you make an expo pass? People just want to walk the floor. They want to say hi to all these amazing vendors who are there presenting. It'd be so nice if you just had, like,
you know what, we did talk about $500. I would love. We were talking about that last night. To actually just have an event for everybody just to get together and hang out. So that would actually be really good. We would love to come to reInvent and just come to the expo, because that's really where it's all about. That's where I spend a lot of my time for it. But it is a huge learning conference for everybody to get the most out of it, and all the sessions that are happening. But you get the most out of the networking and the down to earth conversations that you're having with folks like yourself and the developers who just want to learn and interact. And then they take this back and you just humanize that person. Be like, man, I really want to work with them.
Absolutely. I totally agree 100%.
Okay, back to your question.
My biggest, yeah, exactly, yeah. But
my bad.
And in that very thing, when we create familiarity, it allows us to do something different when we get back to the problem, because then it's much more a coaching experience as a founder, right? Where you're now much more involved in the outcome. You build better familiarity, and then, like, obviously you're doing hard stuff at the data layer and with machine learning and what you're doing, and then the more people that you are able to engage with and listen to, then that helps to inform how you scale the platform, how you approach new clients, and often you get together user communities and bring them together, and all of a sudden they start talking, and you can literally just sit between two customers and you learn something that they may not have shared with you, because the vendor customer relationship still has a bit of a, where we still are a little guarded. It's a little bit tricky.
Absolutely. And I think, you hit on a few things, right? You hit on the entire life cycle of the whole go in, do a project, do something that's meaningful, right? I think to earn that trust, you have to do something that's going to be meaningful. That's going to be meaningful within the first few weeks of you being there.
Right.
2 to 3 months, not 2 to 3 years. And then do pilots, right? Pilot out some of these really great ideas that after you understand their pain, as you mentioned, their pain points, okay, let's do something very anecdotal to that pain. And not look at all the data in the organization and let's build this huge data lake, and you'll get as far as the data lake build and you'll never get the insights out of it.
Yeah.
And so
Now
now
what?
my organizational units that now need to self-service to make decisions off of that have no value from that data lake. And as you mentioned, it's something that's very difficult to do, and they will have no understanding of that. So how do we then do smaller, very intentional builds for accounting, right?
Right.
For marketing right off the bat. Get their feedback. Does it actually work? Is this something that is saving you time? Is this something that you can actually use to make decisions to monetize, right? Some of those decisions that you have up on your whiteboard, but you can't get to because
Yeah.
you're wrangling data all day. And so let's try to deal with that first before we start talking about the larger product. And I think that's one of the ways that we've been able to work with customers, whether they're enterprise or startup or SMB, is really taking it down to that fundamental, very intentional proof of concept, right?
Yeah,
or proof of value, however you want to
It goes to that sort of classic thing of like, what are you trying to do here?
What are you
But
trying to
we
do?
say it as a joke, but look, this is the fundamentals of Gold Rat,
Mhm.
and the goal, and what was amazing with the background to Eli Goldrat and the way it presented in the goal was that it was a human story, literally about a man's family falling apart in the midst of solving this problem, and the fact that we could do this in a very human story and show that understanding flow
Mhm.
and in a manufacturing
Mhm.
area, and that this would ultimately be what we've born the DevOps frameworks from, and then what Gene Kim and all the folks that are part of the Phoenix project, and watching that come into this world where these lessons, which were very anecdotal, and you'd be lucky enough to find something, and then you've got another fantastic story as well, which is like Bridgewater Capital, in Dalio, when he talks about principles, so human principles that we develop based on patterns of development. We're not necessarily using data to make you behave a way. We're using data to understand how behavior occurs so that we can tweak, tune, and optimize using that data. And look, I've been on multiple GL refresh projects. They're 3 years. They're 2 years on the Microsoft project plan. They're 3 years in reality. They basically are about as well organized as the Big Dig. Like, they go way over budget, way over time.
And they don't finish though. I mean, like
I've dated myself right there. The fact that I make a Boston Big Dig reference. So
well, so speaking of dating yourself, Eric is the big 50 tomorrow, so we will give some shout out to embarrass him a little bit. So
we're gonna light up the chat tomorrow with birthday messages.
Yeah.
My Twitter will be unusable tomorrow because I've got there's so many amazing people.
Isn't it
that
unusable
are here
now for you?
It's basically yeah. So, but I love this idea, Tia, where you saw. What's a thing that you saw somebody thought they were on a path, and then when you showed them the pattern in data, there's that aha moment, so to speak?
Well, I think one of the things that we try to do immediately with the business and both technical to get them onto the same page is we do a lot of myth busting. And how do we do that?
Oh wait, I see a show coming on.
Exactly.
I see it.
the data myth busters.
Data myth busters.
We do a lot of myth busting. I think what happens is similar to the data, the people are siloed. And what can happen is that what happens at your desk and what you see doesn't always get out. And so there'll be assumptions that are made at the executive level about the data or the level of data or the credibility of the data that they have. And then you'll have a developer that says, well, no, that's not really what's happening. This is really what's happening. And it's actually happening about 70 to 80% of the time. And it's not something that's a favorable outcome. So we're sitting down with them and level setting immediately by helping them to visualize the data. So going beyond the Excel spreadsheet, as you mentioned before, we really love dashboards. And so going all in and being a quick site service delivery partner, that's one of the first things we do in a data lab with a customer, with a subset of their data. Give us a problem. So I'll give you an example. We had a manufacturer, very large enterprise manufacturer. They had about 15 lines of business, and there was one line of business that was continuously losing money, and they did not know why. Now, their Excel spreadsheets were very elaborate. I will give them credit. Those accountants knew how to work with that Excel spreadsheet. But one of the things they said that they already knew is because they don't have enough time to actually get the data, or they don't even know where the data lives across, the United States, even their U.S. Practice. It would take them a month to actually gather enough insight into an Excel spreadsheet after the product has already shipped. It is too late to make a decision at that point to be profitable or not, if we're profitable or not, so that you can pivot in the middle of the run, right? And so we worked with them. We did a data lab because we wanted to make sure that their people also understood what are these services, even behind the dashboard. We took a subset of their data, which was huge. There was a lot of data in that Excel spreadsheet. And so just one of the things I think we needed to understand is that there really wasn't a process for how each one of the different accountants that contributed to the overall spreadsheet. There was not really like
you didn't know who connected to what spreadsheet or updated what information.
We had to figure that out first. And then when we figured it out, everyone had their own process. And so if everyone has their own process, their own calculations, now we have to have a data, what I call a data dictionary, right? We have to understand now, what does that mean to you, Eric? What does that mean to you, John? And try to help them to then standardize that. And then, just from a small subset of data so that everybody's on the same page. And then they were like, well, we really don't need those numbers at all. So then we found that there was some waste, right? There's some wasted time now. And so how do you then get rid of that? How do you focus on what's valuable? How do you present that? And how do you visualize that? And even when you visualize it, they say, wow, we can see where there's holes in our data. When you're looking at SQL and some other thing, the accountant is not able to see that as visually. But when you give them a visual representation, immediately they get to understand exactly where they're missing data they should be capturing, and data that's irrelevant. They shouldn't be capturing it. So helping them to get their time back and really focus on the things that will matter for them. They're trying to accomplish that with the Excel spreadsheets and, burning the after, midnight hours to try to get these PowerPoints done. And they're missing the mark, and they knew that. But in that 4 days, we were able to do a data lab with them, level up their team to understand, some of these great services like S3 and Glue. How do you work with Athena? Let's talk about that. How do you even ingest from, JD Edwards and, SQL, like these data tables from the database, and actually merge it then into something that matters, right?
If you see me pass out, it's because I'm getting PTSD here and all the vendor names I've lived through this experience. I've installed these platforms, but it is amazing that we often have a measurement problem of the two fundamental problems of measurement. Number one, humans don't like to be measured. There's an unfortunate sense that if we expose what we do to an accounting team or to a data team, that they're somehow going to tell me that maybe I'm worth less than the cubicle three doors down. And so there's an unfortunate sort of self-sabotage that occurs in human behavior of like the just the want to not be measured and treated as a commodity. But then the second piece as well is the duration at which we measure. And if you say, okay, if we measure everything in a quarterly basis, which is often driven cultures have to do this, then by doing this as a quarterly measurement, you really get stuck because you don't necessarily see the true outcome. And I've had this before where somebody says, this is a thing that occurred in the quarter, and then you look and you're like, well, no, we have a 14-month sales cycle. Mm-hmm. So the thing you're measuring in quarter isn't going to be realized for quite some time. So you have to now connect data across a time series that you weren't doing before. And maybe you've got an accounting team that's doing one thing. You've got a post-sales team that's doing another thing. Like you said, each has their own data. And we always joke, said like, your facts don't have feelings and feelings don't have facts. And everything is backed by your data. So your opinions are driven by your data, but your data is being cherry picked. My old joke is I say like I was a data scientist for a fruit farm, but they kept saying I was cherry picking my data.
I want to know how you handle all these different data sources, because I'm thinking right now, I'm thinking the guy that's working on the spreadsheet, the accountant that's working on the spreadsheet, he's like, I got my own offline copy. Yeah, man, I do my own stuff, but I don't do it in the main one. And then everybody's got their own data. They handle it. They do their separate calculation, put it into where you're taking all of this and you're helping them visualize it from one point of view and taking all these data sources, piled into one, and doing it through your data labs, right?
Absolutely. And I think it goes back to what Eric was saying. You have to make sure that, they're people first, right? We don't just dive in on platform.
Right.
For us, it's people, process, and then platform. That's our focus. And so having that data lab, bringing everybody to the table and making sure that we understand that we hear them. We hear them. We start with an assessment. We start with understanding everybody in the room as a person. And then from there, I think sharing that value in a short period of time, we were able to show them their data as a dashboard with insights, with, predictions
Yeah.
in 4 days. That in itself let them know, listen, we already knew that we needed help, right? And now I think they were finally at that moment of, with the right senior leadership, as you mentioned, people don't want to come to the table. They feel like their head's going to be chopped off
Right.
at the block. You're not going to get the favorable outcome that you're looking for.
Yeah, because unfortunately, we do know that there are spreadsheets that are managing the finances of the organization, including human resources. And there's this real, especially with, we've got economic challenges that the whole world is facing right now. We're always a little worried about, like, if I surrender, like, how much I do in a day, is it going to be subject to scrutiny? And but I think one of the most fantastic things that has occurred, I'm sure we would all trade the last 3 years away to just be where we were and not have had to go through this, obviously.
Yeah.
But what we took from it was we were forced to change quickly, and we immediately moved to, we have to measure everything we're doing. We can't just wing it. We have to learn as we go. And we learned, unfortunately, with the thing, that we won't mention on a YouTube stream, because I'm sure we'll get a tag at the bottom. But we all of a sudden, we had a lot of armchair data modelers. But it opened the door to the idea of, like, models are as accurate as the data you feed it. They learn, the outcomes adapt based on more data going in. And I think we all became aware of, like, oh, it's okay. Like, that is how it's going to go. We will have specific thing, like, based on the inputs, based on we believe the right algorithmic approach to measuring these inputs, lean towards an outcome. And then as we continue to throw more learning at it, but it begins with, like, have the right pool of base data, understand what the outcome is you're looking to achieve, understand the path and flow of the work that's leading you towards that outcome today, and then saying, okay, let's A/B test this. Is the data showing you what you think you're doing?
Absolutely. And I think that's what customers want to understand. They want to believe the tech. They want to believe that it's going to be the answer, right? But you do have to show them. And as you mentioned, in an A/B test. And so you still have them run alongside, right? In parallel, normal operation. At the same time, it's kind of like, man or woman versus machine. And that's what we end up doing, right? In those data labs. In order for them to make a decision, some customers are making a buy versus build decision, right? So there's a lot. I mean, I think customers want the help. And I think, to your point, there are some people who feel like, with this technology, I will be displaced. No, you won't. I'm going to tell you right now, what you will be is enhanced. And I think if you're able to have something very powerful working alongside you, taking care of the mundane, you can take care of the exceptional, right? And the things that definitely will require a human's input with the right outputs from the machine. And that's what we're looking to do with every customer. That's why we've structured our data labs and our machine learning labs to do just that. And so now you, in a short period of time, are able to have man or woman, not necessarily versus machine, but alongside machine. And now they get to see what that feels like because you've experienced it. And as you mentioned, pandemic, We all were experiencing something, and we all had to do some things differently.
Right.
And in that data lab, they get to experience that in a very positive way. And I think that helps us to then move forward with, now let's look at the other, insights. Let's look at the other data, other dark data that maybe you have here, and see if we can, what else can we accomplish alongside and integrate it.
Right.
We don't want to create more silos. We're here to actually merge those. I don't like to say break down. Let's merge them in a very positive way.
Well, and silos occur by natural. It's a natural format in the same, like we always say, like I laugh when someone says to me, like, what's amazing is that bees, if like it's when they make a honeycomb, it's literally a perfect hexagon, and they say like, oh, that's neat, bees know math. Like, I'm not sure if you know how this works, but it's the math was the thing we use to learn how the bees do the thing they do. And with human behavior, it's that same thing. We had the sort of trope and we still have it, of breaking down silos. There are organizationally, you cannot break down all silos. You can't have a data science team sitting with the sales team and with the accounting team and with the people doing the GL. It just doesn't make sense, because they're speaking so many different languages for significant portions of their day. They're driving towards different localized outcomes. The global outcome is drive ROI of the business, shareholder value, whatever, like the bigger, like running the business with efficiency. So this sort of failed trope that we got stuck on for so long of like, we're going to break down silos, and people would say that we did this with DevOps. We're going to do this with DevOps. And like, great. And I'm like, but every organization I go to, like, this is our DevOps team. That's our ops group, and that's our developer community. I'm like, you literally have 3 silos. You tried to break down 2 silos. You made 3. You've actually created silos. But with data, like, let silos exist where they need to. Let natural patterns occur in human organizational behavior, but let them interact in a way that's meaningful so that they're passing the right data to each other to do the best local optima for processes, right?
Absolutely. And I think that's something that we find when we do these data labs. First of all, locate the data.
Yeah, where is it?
A lot of times we'll sit down with teams and they don't even know where it is. Or you have that one person that knows. So that's the first thing. We got to make sure we understand, where does the data live? And like you said, the pertinent data. If I don't need every single SQL table that's in the database, give me the ones that pertain to the data that will give me the outcomes in accounting. Give me the information from, is it 30 tables? Is it 10? How many tables are actually in that database that actually pertain now to marketing, right? And then what other data across the organization relates to that data that I'm manually finagling, cleaning, that we can have the machine do. And now we can get your time back so you can focus more on the insights. And so when you go to that meeting on Friday, you're not presenting data. You're presenting not even insights. You're presenting possibilities.
Right.
That's a whole other level of where you can spend your time, value added.
There you go, production team cup. You just nailed it. That's it. Like, if I could say, and one thing that you do particularly well is say it in a way that has an immediate human impact, because that's really what we're after, right? And we have to be careful, because people have started to learn like correlation versus causation and stuff like this. I remember one time there was a study, and it said that marathon runners have high rates of cancer. It's not hard to guess that there's I don't have to even go too far into why that occurs, but the headline on one of the things was marathon running leads to cancer. You're like, whoa, hang on a second. That's actually not. Marathon runners have high exposure to outdoor activities. They spend significant hours of their week with sun exposure. Thus, if you take these 2 hunks of data, it would appear that they're connected together. But again, correlation versus causation. And it's very easy to get wrapped in that problem. And so I love that, being able to say, like, what are we trying to do? And then when we get to that statement, that believed outcome tied to a data input, then we say, okay, is this really what is happening? And then can we do something about it? And I think that's what I'd love to hear. What are some of the stories? Like, what are the things that you see people doing that they just said like through a data lab, like they were just like, wait a second. It's, one person going, see, I told you, right? But then the executive team, the leadership team, the organization can be like, oh, wow, we can do much more with what we've got right now. It's here.
And I think that's what we find a lot of times, regardless of the industry. They have the data. There is no shortage of data in an organization. I've literally gone into organizations that, data's sitting on tables when we're meeting. It's everywhere. And so I think having them to understand that all those different data types can play together to give you insights, whether it's documents, and now you're looking at maybe using, OCR and machine learning through TextRact, right? To actually gather some of that data. Maybe some of the data is in a SQL database somewhere. So, now we have to make sure that we're ingesting that data appropriately, but it can still marry up with that TextRact data that is literally coming in as a PDF for whatever reason. Maybe there's a compliance reason of how that data is being transferred to your organization, but it's still a part of the decision-making stream.
Right.
And so I think understanding their decision-making, right? And then working backwards and then finding those points of cue.
Right.
Why does data sit here for quite some time before a decision can actually be made to push it through? How come this data can't play with this type of data? And I think more and more you're seeing a lot more photos, right?
Yeah.
Show up as data. You're seeing a lot more video. And so they don't understand that you can literally ingest all of that data alongside your more traditional, data that comes in maybe on tables or comes in via PDF. And you can literally have the machine with the right pipelines built out, automate that data to insights where it can then be viewed in a dashboard. Right?
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest thing where they're just kind of like blown away. They still think, to your point, as silos, each one of those data types needs to be treated completely separate to get insights out of, and that's just not the case.
I built because I'm a strange human in that I love optimization at every possible layer, and so I do mentoring with people, and so what I wanted to build was a way in which I could help to create a better mentor-mentee relationship. And what ended up happening is, of course, it ultimately became effectively a dating app, because when you have a good mentoring relationship, it's not because, I happen to need data science and you are fantastic at data science, therefore automatically, oh yeah, you're my greatest mentor. It was more like, oh, we both like photography and we both play guitar, and you enjoy French cuisine, whatever that those things created better relationships and ultimately created better outcomes. And when the same thing happens in teams is that when we find you take the right things that are there in this existing team and you actually find the better connector, it's the same as changing where the hallway goes between two rooms can fundamentally change the whole way that we do this. And we used to have to just okay, I think this may work, but now you can run digital twin. You can see A/B testing using the data lab like that. You just walk in, you're like, what? Here's a set of data. What's the outcome we're after? How do we think it's going today?
Absolutely.
Prove it. And we see it come into play. But then use that data. And then from their point forward, keep pulling data in and then find ways to leverage the data. Like my phone today, I take a picture of something, and a year ago, the same phone, exactly the same phone, could do nothing more than take the picture, keep the picture. Perfect. But now I take that same picture I took a year ago and I hold it, and all of a sudden the logo shows up and it pops out, and the text from the logo is available.
It's really awesome. And so I think that that's the biggest thing in those data labs is getting everybody on the same page, first and foremost, do the myth busting. And after that, now we can get into the art of possible. But I don't think you could just dive into the art of possible until you get everybody on the same page. And it's still about the human process first, right?
Yeah. Right now I'm at the art of the probable. We were at the art of the probable, and now it's truly going beyond that. We were just trying to say, can we do something with what we've got today? And now you're like, no, we know we can do something. What do we really want to do? And that's the child looking. I should insert B-roll. Put in child looking up at the stars. Rocket ships launching. I use this example all the time in keynotes and stuff. And I'll say we started off with the idea of rockets launching rockets, and it seemed fantastical. And then we had SpaceX come along with the idea that they wanted to land a rocket, and they blew up on the pad for however long, but now they didn't. And then said, here we are at all this level of innovation that's now become baseline. Because when Bezos went to the edge of space, yes, I'm going to trash Jeff Bezos. He didn't go into space. He went to the edge of space. That doesn't count, but hey, good on him. So when they sent the Blue Origin up there and it came down and it landed as it should, and you're like, hold on a second. No one made one comment but the fact that they landed the rocket, because it's now baseline expectation. We've come to this point, and we can do this. That is, and now that's possible. Now, what do we do next with this stuff? So, all right.
So I apologize, everybody. Yes, I've been missing, but we are running a tight ship and a crew around here. I'm running back and forth, getting people up to the elevators. So I am part of this show somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Listen, thank goodness that Eric is here to cover me while I do it, and I can sneak out. Plus, he's running the controls and has a single camera on him. So, Tia, I'm going to have to wrap things up in a couple of minutes. But my question for you here, we're at AWS reInvent, and I always say 2022, just because when this gets played numerous times for the next couple of years, what are you looking forward to getting out of this event? The networking, the people, the sessions. I mean, what's some of the things that maybe you're doing, your company's doing, or what are you looking forward to?
I would say after us being virtual for so long.
Wait a second. Home. You were here last year, I know, because we have this 10-year jacket that I know we both have. So anyway.
Yes, we totally have that.
See, I mean, look, we've got people in the room who are actually, this is heaven for us. We can be here and we're in the human experience again.
Yes. So I would say networking. Top of the list, and just saying thank you. I mean, I think sometimes you just got to do it face to face and really let people know. I mean, not, even before the hard times, right? Before 2020, we were there for each other, and to see that we were still there for each other through it, I want to say thank you. That's number one on my list. And do it in person. So got some special gifts for some people, may or may not be watching, but I'm excited to do that. Number two, I'm excited to have my team here. We brought quite a team this year to kind of spread out.
I don't think I've met any of your team. I've
not
met
yet.
You, and that's about it.
You will meet them.
All right.
Yes.
We will be down at the expo later today, and we'll be down there a lot tomorrow. So hopefully we'll get a chance.
We'll be there around 2-ish.
I cannot guarantee time right now. I can guarantee that the days, but I.
That's one of the human experience when it comes to human scheduling is it never works out as it's planned to. But
just like this right now, we are back to back right here live streaming with people joining us.
But I would say networking and definitely meeting up with different AWS teams, right? That really are going to be pushing or the edge, right, of some of the things they have on roadmap, that we can then go back in sandbox and be ready in January to actually kick off our roadshow.
Nice.
When it comes to data and analytics. So we'll be doing a 5-city roadshow.
Amazing.
And so I'm pretty excited about that, and making sure that we can bring what was just launched here as a hands-on experience, right? For those people that are looking to kind of kick the tires a little bit, even prior to going into a data lab and committing. What does this actually look like with a sample subset of data that looks very close to, if it's finance, right? We'll do it across different industries. A subset of financial data, right? That makes some sense to that person, those people in the room, so that they can say, okay, this is definitely something we probably need to prove out as, everyone's making decisions really with their data. So I'm excited for that. And what else? I'm excited. There's a lot of great women in the cloud event. So I'm super excited for that, and being a part of those events as well, and networking with other women in the cloud, and understanding maybe where are we missing the mark on some solutions that actually pertain to women, right? So I'm excited for that, and to take in all that energy and that information so we can go back to the lab and start to then produce in 2023 some of those solutions.
Nice. And what can we do with what we learn from that, and drive data-driven approaches where we understand where we can optimize and improve the experience, and look for what are the right areas where we can, because unfortunately there are some things that are industry locked, this is, but it doesn't have to be. And if we take the right data, the right anecdotal learning, and let's match that together, and all right, we'll obviously you got to give a huge shout out, and properly people should go to bellefleurtech.com, and we'll have lots of links going out on social. We'll share with stuff. So thank you very much, Tia, for joining. If people want to reach you, what's the best way that they can find you online?
I would say online, the best way to reach me probably is LinkedIn. To be quite
I
honest.
try to tag you on Twitter and I can't find, so I just tag Belle Fleur, and that's pretty much it. I'm like, all right,
Yes.
she's got a team behind there. She's going to do some of the stuff. So LinkedIn is a good place to reach you,
LinkedIn is a great way to reach
or
me.
AWS Marketplace.
Or AWS Marketplace.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We are on AWS IQ. And
Yep.
so you can reach
Oh,
out
yes.
and you can reach out to us directly, and you can say that you want to speak with one of our specialists. You can speak to one of our developers or one of our architects.
Perfect.
All right. Awesome. Tia, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for being a sponsor for this event and hanging out with us. And, definitely we've got reInvent live streaming in the background. We've got the events that are happening and everything. So I really appreciate it. I appreciate what you do, your company does, and so far, and your team as well.
Thank you, guys.
And what we're going to do, we'll jump over for folks that want to continue to watch, of course, the stream. We're going to take a quick 5-minute break. We're going to roll over the microphones, get some new folks on the stream. So, Tia, thank you. It's been a real pleasure having you here. We'll talk a lot. We'll keep talking up you and the team as we go on through the event. We'll meet more. And of course, for folks that do want to reach out, you can comment on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on YouTube. Your comments do come up on stream. The next 3 days will be a little bit more active just because people are getting into town right now. There's a great chance for us to be able to meet, learn what's going on. And then as the keynotes begin, we're going to have the same folks that are here already sharing their stories and learning what's going on. And we're going to put that all together, keep the stream going. So the stream will stay up. We're going to take a quick 5-minute break. And of course, do follow along. Go to gtmdelta.com/live. We've got lots of stuff that's going on. We'll share out, follow us. It's #LV reinvent22. Easiest way to make sure you can see what's going on. So just follow on Twitter. And of course, you can follow John and myself. We got a room full of people. This is pretty cool because we're actually, we've got lots of stuff going on. People are starting to pour in. We've got a few well-known personalities that are in this. It's really fantastic. So with that, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back in about 5 minutes and see you all on the other side. And life comes at you fast. We are back live and are very, very proud. We've got an incredible guest lineup that's joining us today. We've already had some great folks who've welcomed us to Las Vegas here. And I'm not going to bother spending too much time giving the intro because...
Whoa, wait a second. Cut over to us, you and I. We're gonna make them hang on for 1 second. So this is a pleasure, and I'm not spilling it. A pleasure for him to join us. He's got a huge busy schedule happening here in reInvent. He's doing I want to give a hint, but this will give it away. It's happening on Wednesday in the Expo Center. You're going to want to follow him for this entire event. You know what? I'm not giving it away. I'm going to let him do it. Let's cut over to our guest, Eric. It's none other than...
Hi, I'm Corey Quinn, and it's a pleasure to listen to me indulge my ongoing love affair with the sound of my own voice.
Oh, this is freaking awesome. All right, man, I got to take this. I was in the middle. So as everybody knows, we're improv in a lot of this podcast. I am the one doing a lot of the social stuff, running and grabbing people. So you might see me disappear sometimes. I am still here, but I'm trying to get things out socially, and I just didn't make it in time before we cut over the stream. Corey, you and I have worked together for the last 2 years on and off. Actually, 3 years. I think we...
Time stands still when there's a deadly plague over the land.
Yeah, that's it. We've totally lost track of any measurement of time. I was said that at an event recently, and I was like, hey, remember, when's the last time we saw each other? Yeah, it was last year. And that means N-2. You automatically add 2 years. You mean 2019? Last year. That's how it feels.
The simulation continues to be great.
Yeah. All right,
degrading simulation.
Yes.
AWS services.
Right. I was literally just going to. I was like, so Corey is under a time limit, so we're going to get the most out of him during this session. And when we say we're going to get the most out of him on this session, you guys are going to enjoy this. Corey, you are here at AWS reInvent 22. See, I didn't do 2022, so how do you like that? I shortened it a little bit. This has been your thing for the last couple of years. You have a lot going on, and I'd like to get to it. What's happening for you here at it? What are you looking to get out of it? Because this is going to be fun.
Well, and we should, of course, just because there may be 14 people on Earth who don't know about you,
God
Corey.
Damn, I did it again.
Let's do a quick intro for you. Talk about the Duckbill Group, and then we'll get to the fun stuff.
Hey, Eric, thanks for cutting me, putting me straight. I feel like we were cutting right to it because I know.
And if people want to comment online, of course, if they've got a live question, they can drop it on all that. We've got LinkedIn, we've got Twitter, we've got YouTube. So anyway, sorry, Corey, go ahead.
Sure. At the Duckbill Group, we fix the horrifying AWS bill. Now, the trouble with that is if you're a serious company with a serious bill, you don't tend to talk about that in public, or it tanks the stock and you get fired super quickly. So when I started doing this 6 years ago, it was, okay, how do I become known for this thing? And for better or worse, my greatest and worst asset simultaneously is, of course, my obnoxious personality. So let's lean into that and see what happens. And I started writing the Last Week in AWS newsletter, lastweekinaws.com, where I make fun of Amazon every week, because otherwise the things they release are boring. I basically curate a list of things that actually matter from all of the noise and turn it around in my first language spoken at home, which is, of course, sarcasm. And that turned into podcasts and videos and probably a breakfast cereal by now. But it's just become a really weird path. So I spend basically half my time doing podcasts, newsletters, etc., and the other half fixing large companies' AWS bills. I don't know which one of them requires a greater sense of humor some weeks.
We have an interesting relationship with both, as obviously what the significant vendor partner that you work with, but representing your customer's interest. This is an interesting dichotomy because you have such a fantastic personality. You really do pull a lot in, and people appreciate that humorous approach. But as we learned in the early days with Amazon, they were very, very brand controlled, as they sort of needed to be, especially as they grew a lot and they bumped into some troubles. You've been able to really sort of dance this fun line of giving them a poke, but in a way that I've seen reactions. I've seen them change behaviors in platforms and sort of their customer approach because of stuff that definitely you've brought to their attention through using a public voice in a strong way.
Yeah. An Amazonian leadership principle is leaders are right a lot, and I've perverted that into I tell people I'm right a lot, and that sort of carries me through. Now, in seriousness, it's because the nature of what I do with optimizing AWS bills, which often includes contract negotiation, it opens the door to a whole lot of real or perceived conflicts of interest. So you've either got to be partners with everyone or no one. And honestly, no one is a lot less paperwork. So that's the path I went down. Now, as I mentioned on my website's disclosures page, AWS is a customer for voice of the customer analyst style feedback. I'm mostly in their analyst summit here this week, talking to folks about what they're building, and sometimes asking them to use different words, sometimes smaller, sometimes more technical, sometimes less technical, but it all comes down to storytelling, for lack of a better term. And my perspective has always been that as much as I like the AWS ecosystem, my target market is not AWS themselves. If anything, they're in the way. I'm trying to talk to AWS customers because I don't think I'm going to have much success selling AWS bill optimization to AWS itself.
Right.
I feel like they have a slightly different rate card than most of us.
I love the value that you provide. First of all, I love the relationship that you have between AWS, because some of the things that I see and that you post, I'm like, oh man, I wonder how AWS is going to take that. But they actually take your feedback from the voice of the customer. Yes, you push the limits. You know where you need to go with it to actually get the voice heard. But it is a relationship, and that you guys work well together. And they invite you to these because of the value that you provide, not only to them, but to their customers.
It's partially that, but it's also, and this took me a little while to learn, but Amazon, believe it or not, is a big company. Now, to me, a big company is anything with more than 200 people. They're over 1 million at this point. So there is no one Ted Amazon sitting somewhere who holds the corporate opinion. Companies are made of people, as it turns out, just like Soylent Green. And the thing that just continually I have to relearn is that different people have different opinions. Some Amazonians love what I do. A handful can't stand what I do, but the vast majority has the worst answer, and that is that they have never heard of me. And that's the unforgivable sin.
All right, so wait, let me give a shout out to that. Now you said that if they haven't heard of you, where could they go to find you?
Last week in AWS.com. I send out newsletters a few times a week, but it sounds exactly like it's my speaking voice, for lack of a better term.
I gotta concur with that. So last week in AWS, when you read it, it comes from a personal perspective. It is not an AI written type of content. It has the same snark that you have day in and day out added into it. So does anybody ever try to edit your stuff and you're like, no, you leave that in there?
Well, no, I wind up having a full editorial oversight on those things. What I do have is team members who inject sponsor ads into it afterwards, where I've pre-approved the sponsors and the messaging that they have in, but I have no idea until it goes out which sponsor is sponsoring anything that I'm doing until after it's already set and locked. And the reason behind that is I don't want it to compromise what I'm saying. If I'm going to talk smack about some company and it turns out that they're sponsoring it, I might not do that. Whereas instead, I'd rather do it and feel bad. And to be clear, this has never been an issue, but it's hard to take a check and then also go at someone who's done something foolish in the industry and call it out for what it is. So I remove myself from an awful lot of that because I just don't know.
There is an interesting thing of maintaining integrity while having a very strong opinion in a public sphere.
You can buy my attention, but not my opinion. Right. That said, I figure I can sell out exactly once, so make it count. Like the diamond-plated platinum package is great. I'm going to shill the hell out of what you do for 3 to 6 months, and then I will vanish, and no one will ever hear from me again.
That check will be cashed.
Well, one thing that there's a lot of things we could talk about. I'm going to steal a moment because you've been very strong, and you talked about the idea of like, why would I go to external funding when effectively you've bootstrapped, revenue funded, you're doing fantastic, to draw in external interest to suddenly scale? Like there's no value. And I love that approach. My own startup, we're bootstrapping and we've had plenty of offers. And I'm like, no, we're good. Because they're like, oh, you've got a well-formed thing. You've got a predictable pipeline. You've got all these things that are perfect for venture capital. And they're like, how can we invest? I'm like, no, because the reason why I'm attractive to you is because I've already done what you want to do.
Yes.
Now you're just gonna reap the benefits. And I love that you've been very strong on that, because we often get lost in this sort of the VC backed startups that come and go. And we think that that's the only way it should exist. But a true bootstrap, revenue driven, customer focused company like Duckbill, like it should be a beacon to how most companies should aim to be.
Yes and no. I mean, it's different strokes for different folks. Let's be very clear. But I don't think false modesty serves me particularly well. I am arguably, unquestionably at this point, the absolute best in the world at one specific thing. And that is getting myself forcibly ejected from jobs. I am a terrible goddamn employee. And
being unemployable is a key thing for a founder.
So I wind up taking a bunch of investment or scaling it out or getting acquired by someone else. Great. Now what? Because if I wasn't employable before, look at me now. It's my God. There's no
same attitude and now 12 Maseratis.
Right. So it has to be enough that I don't ever work again, because I don't think I can. And I want to have a lifestyle business. What I do, I have 2 young daughters, ages 5 and 2, and I want to be around to watch them grow up. And also, this is, I think, something that more people should take to heart. It's hard to put this into an employee handbook, but fundamentally, like a decision I made on day one with my business partner is someday those kids are going to ask me where their college fund came from.
Right.
And on that day, I will not be ashamed of the answer. And that manifests in a bunch of different ways, and it means when you screw up in ways that hurt people, you do what you can to make it right, and certainly don't make that mistake again. But it also means you say no to some money that you should not be taking, but it's super tempting. And you have to make those decisions before it's on the table, because otherwise you're always going to compromise and move the goalposts.
I think I love that you actually kind of jumped on that a little bit, because you gave people that are listening, watching, all 5 of them, is a little bit of an insight into Corey Quinn, is that what they see on Twitter and the person that they're seeing right now, you do have moral beliefs and respect to what you do, and, the people you work with, the brands that you work with, and the stuff that you deal with day in and day out. I think that kind of captures you as a human behind the brand, and really why they should work with you or your company.
I had dinner a couple nights ago with someone at AWS, and it was the first time I'd met them in person. And the line that I love was toward the end of the meal, was that I asked them, well, was I what you were expecting? And the answer was, you are terrifyingly Corey Quinn. Where they thought that I was doing a bit or a persona in the newsletters or the social medias.
Yeah.
No, it is my personality. It is who and what I am. And it's been a weird transition for me, because I have gotten to a point now where the audience is vast enough that people only ever see me as a character instead of knowing me as a person with deeper context. And that has inadvertently caused me to do some damage to people. That's not good. So how do you fix that? Well, you have to be a lot more careful about what you say, but you can't do it to the point where it subverts the entire reason people listen to you in the first place.
Yep.
It's a delicate balancing act, but honestly, remember, like, as I frequently say, the failure mode of clever is asshole. And you don't want to wind up in a scenario where people regret including you in conversations or bringing you into something.
Yep, exactly. So I'm being cognizant of your time here. We've got about like 10 minutes left. I want to talk a little bit about reInvent and that's happening and some of the things that you're doing. I did not want to spoil Wednesday.
Yes, we're doing the Expo Hall Nature Walk.
Yeah, you got to talk about this and tell everybody because this has grown. It was a small little people following you, but you actually get a huge crowd behind it and going through the expo. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about it and how they can get involved?
Sure. I wind up starting and stopping, I believe, at 1 o'clock, but check requinvent.com. That's REQUINVENT.com. And it's either 1 or 2 at the Fortinet booth. And for 45 minutes to an hour, we walk around the expo hall. I am dressed appropriately. And we go on a nature walk through all the majestic predators that are the AWS Expo Hall sponsors. And we are sustainable and we're responsible about it. We don't let them scan our badges because then they'll become dependent upon us. We are not part of their ecosystem. We are only observers. We have to keep very safe. Like, don't let them get too close. They are not domestic. These are wild companies.
So it's like, don't feed the animals. Don't feed them.
Exactly. And I wind up basically just describing what a bunch of these companies do off the cuff. And people really like it, except those companies in question, because sometimes I say the quiet part out loud, but that's someone else's problem.
That's
the quiet part's the greatest part, but because it's that sort of thing of like, thank y'all for saying what needed to be said, like the wrestler, high school gym wrestler meme of like, this kid is just like, this is, you represent a voice that you hear all the time. And
it is. And that's the trick. Sure, I might wind up being slightly more humorous in how I frame it and all, but the sentiments that I talk about are exactly what people talk about privately over drinks with their friends about when they're talking about these companies. So I just never understood the point of saying something behind someone's back that you would not tell them to their face. So yeah, it's absolutely fine to me to walk by the VMware booth and say, yeah, here we have the payday lender of technical debt, because that is fundamentally what they are. Now, they don't like hearing that, but that's okay. I don't like paying the interest rates on that. So honestly, nobody's happy. Welcome to cloud.
When you look at maintaining that, have you ever had a point where you said something and like where you're like it's okay, maybe that one was a little wild? Like, do you dance close to the line? I've seen, like, you're very vocal, but I've never really seen something where it was hurt was intended. Some people, they gather offense just because they're offense farmers.
I make an exception for Larry Ellison, the co-founder.
I knew we weren't going to
because he has no friends or family who care about him in any way, so it's fine, open season. But the rest, I don't punch down, I punch up. And realistically, like that joke about VMware right now, who is going to wind up being personally offended that I wound up calling out the subtext that a lot of people say about VMware, the company? I am not. There are great things about that company. They are one of the best companies in the world that I've ever seen as far as how they treat their employees. The people who work there are sharp. They care about what they do. I'm not sitting here saying that those people are doing anything wrong. And that is a nuanced and delicate balance.
Right.
Now, everything is made of people. So at some point it becomes almost academic. If you work on an AWS service and you build a feature and the feature comes out and I crap all over it, it probably doesn't feel great. But from my perspective, it is something that $1 trillion company has just released and is charging millions of dollars a month for it. It has a customer experience. Well, let's try it and see how the service works out. Because in the absence of that, all we've got is marketing, and they say how amazing it is.
Yeah, it's too easy to get wrapped into that. And I love that idea of, like, there's a level of, like I said, you, even as outward as you seem, I've never seen it where you're like you said, you do not punch down. You say tough things, but what I like is that people are recognizing that this is an opportunity to learn from this, because this is not a lone voice. It's generally representative of things that you're hearing from your customer side, and That
I have
$1 trillion
gotten
company needs some
disastrously
help.
wrong a couple of times. And it's serious. And what you do in those scenarios is, in my case, I've taken what I put up down. I have apologized sincerely on that, and I don't make that mistake again. Now,
Right.
there is a small subset of people where whom anything short of ritual seppuku is not going to be an appropriate enough apology. But I'm not here for those people. If I wind up apologizing for a thing and then I keep doing the same thing, then no, I'm just trying to wind up come up with a PR response,
Right.
and I will. That's not going to end well for me, or at least it damn well shouldn't.
When you come to here, what's your goal aside from, obviously you're here for a strong analyst presence to get close to what's happening, sort of listening to the ground? What's your week look like?
Triple booked for most of it. I'm doing a lot of things. I'm in AWS's Analyst Summit where I'm talking to a bunch of their folks on things. I'm talking to a whole bunch of clients. I have some media sponsorship stuff that I'm doing. Again, requinvent.com is where to go for that nonsense.
Yeah,
And I'm also learning about the new AWS services that come out. Last night, they canceled Midnight Madness, and maybe the real madness was us all along. But they wound up releasing 44 distinct posts over a 2-hour span late at night. And I was reading through them, and roughly 5 of them are interesting. Now, in a normal week, that number would double or triple, but it's reInvent. These are iterative enhancements, which is great. I don't want a whole bunch of new services. I want the services we have to become more capable. But that's also not headline news exciting for a lot of folks.
Now
wait. Is there one particular service you're looking forward to them releasing?
You can go a whole bunch of different ways with that one.
Did they release Infida Dash? What was it?
Oh yeah, fake services that aren't real. That's a fun one too. It's, like honestly, like I take a look at a whole bunch of services out there that have been transformed. Tailscale is a great example. It has redefined mesh networking. It makes networks work the way that I wanted them to, and yeah, I think that it would be great if they were to adopt that. Now, in practice, I'd love to see them just integrate with it. In reality, if they went in that direction, I have no knowledge about it in either direction, but it's much likely they'd come out with like Amazon Basics Tailscale. It's expensive and shitty, and they're going to put it as number one result in the search because that's increasingly always ads. But they used to say this very condescending thing where, we're just validating your market. In practice, lately, a lot of those competitive service launches, I've got to be direct, they're terrible. And that really is what they're doing. It used to be when they would launch a first-party competitor to these things, that thing had teeth. Most of them don't anymore. And I think it's because a lot of these things are being moved higher up the stack. And top to bottom, Amazon is terrible at user interfaces. Amazon.com, the website, is terrible. We all tolerate it anyway. The one good user interface they built was the Kindle e-reader. You push the button, it turns the page. And in the most recent one, what did they do? They took away the freaking buttons. I am not terribly worried because user and developer experience are the future of cloud. And if they don't believe that or don't understand that, that's okay. People building on top of them will, and their competitors will.
One thing I do want to talk about is your keynote responses, which are fantastic because you're like very much in the moment. I just sort of watch this occur. I'm postulating and formulating, and then you get to a studio and you start to share.
Wait, I heard you have a sweet setup now for these keynote responses.
I just rent a studio. It's easier. I have a car waiting for me right after.
I heard that's actually pretty good. I mean, compared to ours, you got a studio complete setup to go over there for your keynote responses and, the live streaming and the tweeting that happens for that. Then you have
the hard part is building the slide deck in real time.
That is the one thing too, because it's not just you formulating opinion and literally just getting on microphone, but you generally create a full content experience.
It's a narrative arc.
Yeah.
And the thing is I'm ADHD personified, let's be clear. And among that, I suck at planning for things because there are 2 times, now and not right now. And when you suck at planning, you've got to be good at improv.
I just learned why I'm only good at improv because I'm terrifyingly bad at planning. As the old joke says, like, I don't know what HDs are, but I've got 80 of them.
Yeah. I've actually started to use that for some reason. And Eric and I, when we try to plan things, it's just very, all right, we'll be talking something. We'll spitball something. And I'm like, okay, can we repeat that? No. Yeah. I don't even know how I said it. We always record.
Always record everything you've got just in case you get called out. I know we're down to we've got moments left with you, Corey. So before we send you off to do amazing things that you got a hell of a week ahead, thank you, first of all, for joining us. It's been fantastic. I always love any opportunity we can to collaborate. I've been lucky enough to share some mic time and stuff through corporate engagements in the past, and it's great for you to spend time with us here today. Obviously we've got Quinn Vent. People should go check that out. You've got a lot
We're
more
hosting a
things
drink
going
up
on.
at Atomic Liquors on Wednesday night. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
It's about 4 miles away. Gets you the hell off the strip. Come by. Let us buy you some rounds.
Yeah, that was every year I tell myself I got to go to the museum, the Atomic Museum, and like the best thing I end up at is Atomic Liquors. So it's a great venue to host, and that's going to be fantastic. If people wanted to get connected for that, is there a place where they can go? Obviously, you've got
show up at 8:15 at Atomic Liquors. The end. There's no sign up list. I wound up getting rejected from a few parties because we think you're a vendor, not a practitioner. It's like, oh, I get it. You want to sell things to people. Got it.
Oh wait, I like it that there's no sign up, no email, no nothing. Just show up. We're not asking. We're not selling you anything. We're buying you stuff.
That's why
I want to have conversations with interesting people. There's a reason that it's not right next to the venue. I don't want 2,000 randos stopping by because, hey, free drinks. You have to put a little bit of effort into it. But every time, like I think we had close to 100 last year of people stopping by. And it's just great because the conversations there really help contextualize what we've seen so far, how we're thinking about a lot of the releases that come out. Sometimes we just talk about random stuff that's no bearing on tech. I know, hard to imagine, but it happens.
Oh, Corey, I got to thank you so much for joining us, taking the time out of your day. Come on over anytime to join the podcast. I know you're triple booked, so this is definitely right out of the norm for you. We really appreciate you giving us insight on everything you do. Don't forget, you can follow Corey on all the legitimate places. Last week in AWS is really good. Reach out to him, subscribe to the newsletter because you're not going to want to miss us. Even head on over and read some of the posts. And once you start reading those, you will subscribe. I can guarantee. So
you can also hang out with us at slack.lastweekinaws.com. There's an active back channel group for all of reInvent this year. So
how come I didn't know about this?
Right? Because you didn't do your research. But again, neither do I. That's why it's improv.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much, Corey.
Really quickly, just to that point, I've got to give a shout out. More people need to do this. The idea that listeners, viewers, fans are not pipeline. If they become pipeline, if they're self-select into pipeline, this is what we need to do. We do this when we did registration for this. I said, sign up for the event, and it's all marked non-marketing contacts. I'm never going to send them a sales thing. I said right on it. Privacy is a human right. I firmly believe in that. And this is not a sales flow. I've got a separate group for people that I want to be able to share stories with. And
if I were to sell something to people, all I have to do is talk about the problem that they're experiencing, and people will self-select into reaching out to learn more. Hounding them and interrupting them to scan their badge and all kind of other nonsense, it's counterproductive.
That's the way to go.
Because remember, lifestyle company, I don't need to grow and dominate the entire world at all costs.
It's a magical thing, Corey. Thank you very much. There you go, folks. Check out the Duckbill Group. Thank you to Corey and the team for getting some time apart from the fun-packed and action-packed event. So we're going to take a quick 5 break here because we're rounding into the final half hour. We're going to get a couple of new folks to jump on mic with us, and we'll be right back. Thank you to folks. And, of course, again, go to requinvent.com if you want to find out about the Nature Walk. Fantastic. Head over Wednesday night to Atomic Liquors if you're in town, and it's a great chance to meet other folks that are feeling the challenges that you're inevitably feeling, and it's a real pleasure to share time with all the folks. So again, for folks that are watching the stream, we're going to take a quick 5. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. We are here at AWS reInvent this week. We're live in Las Vegas. We've got a lot going on. So if you want to follow, obviously, if you're watching the stream, I say obviously. I say obviously way too much because it makes
obviously you are watching this.
If you're watching this video live, and if you're here in town, there's 2 ways that you can interact with us. Number one, of course, you can communicate with us online. We've got Twitter, we've got LinkedIn Live, we've got YouTube live streams, so you can drop a comment and we will make sure that we get that on the call, which is pretty cool. We can actually be very dynamic. I love that we've had lots of interaction already. Of course, if you want to see more, you can go to gtmdelta.com/live. We've got our whole schedule published, and we've got John Myer, of course. Go to johnmyer.com. We're going to see lots of cool snippets and clips and replays that we're going to have from this. If you want to see your comment on air, kind of cool that you can get your comments to the screen.
Reach out to us. So if you want to see your comment live, right, we're going to share it. I'll ask the questions. We've had amazing guests. We have more amazing guests lining up for us. Follow us, #LV reInvent. 22, yes, 22. Join into all the fun. I will be reposting all of these because I can't live stream for some reason. Thank you. Don't give a huge shout out to Restream.
Again, if anybody from Restream is watching this chat, please just slide it into my DMs. We get a Restream problem here for whatever it is. It's a co-streaming problem, but it's all right.
That's not the worst. If that's the worst of it, I'm good because we'll be actually reposting this. We've got a lot more lined up, and I know said we were doing this at 11:30. It looks like we're going to be going just a tad later.
It's all right because we want to give great conversations don't have time limits. And speaking of great conversations,
speaking of that, let's kick off our next guest
here. So Ezra, thank you for joining us. For folks that are brand new to you, let's introduce the world to you. We'll talk about NTWS. We'll talk about a bunch of things, but thank you first of all. Like you're making this happen. It's so cool.
It's exciting to be here, and two big acts to follow between Tia and Corey. But I'm gonna do my best.
Sorry, I have no doubt you're going to do great.
So I'm Ezra. I'm on the marketing team at N2WS, and this is now my 6th reInvent, including that 1 year where it sort of happened, but not really.
Yeah, we had a bit of a hybrid year, so we weren't quite sure how that was going to go. There was like dabbling in it, and it's good to be. I say it's good to be home. It's good to be back and be in person again.
Yeah. And so N2WS, it's a backup and disaster recovery product. It's sold only in AWS Marketplace. And reInvent's really important for us. This is our chance to engage with our customers and have some fun on the show floor. And we don't focus on just scanning badges and things like that. We really try and give customers and other folks that want to come by a little place to have some fun, win some prizes, talk to some people if they like, or just hang out for a bit. So we'll be there all week, and hopefully, some of your viewers will pop in, and we're looking forward to it.
Well, you have a unique thing because we talked yesterday much more than even just what you're doing with NTWS. You've got some other things that happened over a weekend that you decided, like, I've got a crazy idea. And like we talked about how we got here was, I've got a crazy idea. And the next thing you know, here we are. And we're in a suite filled with cameras and swag and amazing people. And even day one, this is the pre-day, in effect, because we don't have the keynote stream. But I love your mindset. And even just in the interactions we've had already, it's just like, let's talk about your I'm going to go right to your side project because that's actually pretty cool. And then we'll jump back because NTWS is solving a really specific, deep problem that I want to talk about.
Sure. I do have a side project. It's called 7 Taps. It's a micro learning tool that's also deployed on Amazon Web Services. And I think like one of the special things about Amazon Web Services is it's so enabling. It's like, I think Tia said some interesting things where, it's not, and you actually mentioned where, you plug into the AI, show me salmon swimming in a river, and you don't want to fillet back, right?
Yeah,
What AWS is good for, it helps you take care of some of the mundane stuff so that you can build things that are awesome. And it's not a replacement for any of us. None of the services that are deployed are replacements for us, but it's to help us kind of take care of the work that needs some automation so that we can focus on doing things in a bigger, better way.
Nice. Now, and that's why reason I want to call it out is because learning is such a fundamental part of anything we do, right? All this technology is great, but if you don't give a way in which people can sort of rapidly adopt methods and technologies, because those repeatable methods are so fantastic because it transcends whatever you're learning to like a learning method that you can then build a platform on which you can deliver this micro learning approach. I really dig that. So that's why I was like, we're going to nerd out hard on that over the course of this week because I would love to dive in more, but
this is a learning conference. So it's, I think that's what a lot of people are here to do is to kind of expand their skill sets and take on new challenges. So, yeah.
Now, all right, wait. So a question from the audience, and I've learned this. Okay, is a huge shout out to Tim thanks for posting this. I'm not going to answer it because I want to. Ezra, what does N2WS stand for?
Yeah.
We are in that data protection space. And so when you're in the data protection space and you want to give customers the confidence that they're not going to have downtime or outages, I think like almost everybody here is new to something in AWS. And like one of the reasons why there's this shift to AWS and cloud in general is because people don't want to manage mundane tasks like servers in a closet, right? And one of the fundamental reasons they're moving to the cloud is to not have downtime or outages anymore. And so N2WS stands for not to worry software.
That's
you
fantastic.
do not have to worry about it.
That's the best ever.
It's a little hokey, but I actually love it. It's it's really important for our customers to never have to worry about, what do they do when a disaster happens? What do they do when, a service that they're using fails, or, you're obviously only as strong as your weakest link, and we work in teams of people. And this is about people. And it's not that there's anybody that does something wrong. It's just that, the famous quote is everything is going to fail all the time or at some point.
It's just
right?
a matter of when.
It's just a matter of when. And so one of the things that N2WS does extremely well is gives customers the confidence that they know exactly what to do when things go wrong. And, backup is backup. It's been around forever. It's really like a fundamental discipline in IT and in, your overall security posture. And so, having a tool where you know exactly what to do, you know, if I need to do anything from a single file level restore, I can go and do that. And I know that it's going to work and I know what to click on, all the way through to how do I rehydrate an entire workload in another region or another AWS account, and kind of anything in between those two. What we see is customers are adopting multiple different AWS services and kind of connecting them in interesting ways to build out applications and build products on top of AWS. And the more interconnected services you have, it's potentially more failure points. And so
Right.
What N2WS focuses on is offering that high availability for those production workloads on AWS. We can do, like I said, anything from a single file or folder recovery, which is actually hard to do if you don't have a tool for it. So like if you think about it, like you deployed a whole lot on Amazon EC2 or on EFS or FSX, like what if you just need to recover one file? Because that's going to come up, like especially if you go all in on AWS and you don't have servers in the closet. You used to know how to do it, but now suddenly the only person that can do file level recovery is your cloud architect, because they have to go and rehydrate a snapshot and mount it onto an instance. And so like it created all this kind of discomfort in the world of IT and in the people that traditionally handled those small tasks. They're suddenly not enabled anymore. And that's where N2WS comes in. And we say, here's a simple tool. You can do anything from file and folder level recovery, because that's going to be a need that your IT team has. You have to support your customers, which is, your in-house finance team, which,
Right.
We were talking about Excel files earlier.
Yeah.
You got to have a way to bring them back, and Excel's not going away. It's, there's other tools that you can build on top of it. But, I think, we have to kind of, enable people. And so I think that's something that N2WS does really well is it bridges the gap between what was happening in the on-premises world and what's happening in cloud. And just saying like, things are not that much different. You can actually do bigger, better things in cloud, but you just need some different tooling. And so N2WS is that tool where it kind of makes sense. It's like it operates similar to the way things operated in on-premise world, but it's built to be cloud native and AWS first.
Yeah, it's kind of expanded that is where your traditional data center, you might only have that one or that backup data center. Now within the cloud environment, and what N2WS is handling is now you can go global, regional, and really restore wherever you'd like to actually do that without having to worry about it.
Yeah, and I think it's also, part of it is what AWS provides, which is, like you said, this global infrastructure, but also the ability to like kind of scale up and down really, really quickly. And so like, you're not worrying about actual like the physical hardware anymore, but that means that, you can replicate entire workloads to other regions to do testing on, to do, for whatever your purposes are. And so, that's something that we help customers understand and just make it a lot easier for them.
One thing that's important about this is we sort of talk about the right abstraction level. This is pervasive in the discussion we've already had this morning. And I'm kind of like, maybe I'm obsessed with this variety of where's the right abstraction at which you can apply a solution towards a specific problem. I did business continuity and disaster recovery for a large financial services organization for years, and literally their entire distributed systems platform, which was massive. So just even Active Directory had 49 Active Directory servers. So how do we manage the right sort of, what's the level at which we do recovery? Because recovery is not necessarily workload. And for the longest time, we thought about there's like data and then there's server. And those were the two levels of abstraction. But now we've moved where we've got service level applications with adjacent dependencies, and even just getting a distributed web, like a 3-tier app where it was distributed across servers became complicated. Because if I can recover the server, but my RPO and my RTO for the front end, which has some data still held in some, mid-layer cache, then my data backs services that are backing it have a fundamentally different RPO and RTO. Well, how do I reconcile that? Because what I want to recover is an application. That's a huge change, that we have to think about it like an application. And now as we distribute these services, this is a complex problem.
No, I love that. So, you're right. It's an application. It's not just data. And like if you go and you take snapshots, which you should do if you're not taking backups because things fail, you try and recover one of those snapshots. And when you recover one, what you end up with is a hard drive on your desk, not connected to anything.
Right.
Exactly. That is a great analogy.
Really
here you go, kid. Good luck, and may your God go with you.
Right.
Here's some cables. Good luck.
Right. And so what you actually need is you need something that's going to recover not just the hard drive, but actually understand like, okay, this hard drive was attached to this machine type and it had these networking configurations and all of this metadata. All of that has to be put back together in order for it to be usable again. And I think, a lot of AWS customers like come in and this is like a big source of kind of fear. It's like, how am I going to put this back together if it breaks? And what I love about N2WS is we're not a platform, we're not a solution, we're a tool, and the tool takes backups. And it doesn't just take backups of the data. It understands all the metadata, the security groups, the VPC settings, the routing tables, transit gateways, everything like that, so that when you click a recovery button, it's going back to that production state. And we can also take backups of multiple services in an application consistent format. So you have that like standardized recovery point across all these services. And then we have recovery orchestration, where you click one button, you pre-build this. You say like, this is what my application looks like. It's, some EC2 and some RDS and some VPC settings and some other services all mixed together. You build it, you drill it, you test it, you build confidence in it so that if the time comes or when the time comes, you click the button and you know exactly what's going to happen. And I think like that's taking the worry out of, the space. So that's how we kind of live up to the name.
Now, when you get into business continuity too, is a very human aspect, and this again another sort of pervasive theme in all the stuff we talk about technologies. I remember doing this where we joke in tech. We would say, okay, so imagine that the data center disappears. We just got a big smoking hole, and how do we recover the entirety of the environment? So we have like tier 1, tier 2, and I've got PTSD still from going through those matrices of defining applications, and like, oh well, you've got a tier 1 application, but then it has a data requirement that you've got in tier 3. You don't have a tier 1 application now. You have a tier 3 application, right? Because it's only as good as the connecting tissue but then what ended up happening was, as we go through these sort of like emotionless conversations about data and servers and such, we realized that who is going to do this recovery? And in the end, it's really, we have to inject human knowledge into the recovery process. We're fighting about application consistency, but how do we confirm that? And this is where this like going to a team and saying, hey, we're going to back up this application, but what is an application? Like go to the fundamentals of like, let's map out, and it's changing, it's evolving. They're going to add a new service. All of a sudden they put a DynamoDB in the middle of it. And all of a sudden they're like, oh, they've got a serverless set of, like 5 serverless functions that are running on a nightly, on-demand batch or something like that. And all of a sudden you've got, oh, wow, if they're not communicating that new state of the application into a platform where you're going to protect and ultimately recover if need be. Knock wood, we don't want it to happen, but like that's the thing, that these are evolving things. This is not your grandpa's backup products anymore. You have to think of it as like an evolving state that will continuously change, and it's like these tentacles of new services. So it's got to be tough. Like, it's a hard problem to solve. Good on you.
Well, good on our development team. They do an excellent job at that. And there's other problems that come along with this. So, when you take backups, you basically, you double your data footprint. And AWS is selling only a few different products when you really break it down. They're selling storage and compute, and then some data ingest and stuff like that. So I think one of the other things that we see a lot of is, okay, now I have all of these backups and I understand how to recover it, but my cost is going up,
right.
And it's going up really like doubling every time I copy data to another region or another account, because the way those backups work is like a snapshot chain. It's when you copy a snapshot chain, the first one is a full.
It's going to be full plus incrementals.
And so another area that we've kind of expanded into and really have a strong focus on is, how do we give customers the benefit of all of these storage tiers and make it accessible to them? So like, okay, I can put data in Glacier, but how do I get it back if I need it? Like that's another piece.
You beat me to this question, because this is people say this all the time, like, oh, I'm going to save a lot of money. I'm going to put it into Glacier. I'm like, but what's your recovery time? And do you even have a platform that understands that it has to wait for a response? Because it could be, it's
hours.
An indeterminate amount of time. They don't have no guarantees on recovery time. And so if you've got software that doesn't know to like hang on and wait for that, like so you solved both we can save money, but we are fundamentally breaking the recovery procedures.
Right. And, now we actually support Glacier Instant Retrieval. So this way customers can save the money and also have fast retrieval times if they need that. And so, this is something that our customers, it's really important to them. It's important for them to, have the ability to not just have vision of where they are on AWS today, but like, what is this going to look like in 5 years? If I migrate this application to AWS today, what's my footprint going to look like in 5 years? And how am I going to manage all of that? How am I going to make it so that I can actually afford to do this, so that, this comes out in a way where we're still profitable, where, we're just not, taking money from customers and giving it directly to AWS. We have like room for margin.
So Ezra, I'm going to switch gears a little bit and let's talk about reInvent right here. What you guys are doing. What is N2WS involved in at reInvent? How can people get a hold of you or see you at the booth or on the floor?
Sure. We'll be on the show floor all week. We're in booth 128. It's on the kind of left side in the kind of security area.
I get lost. As soon as I go into the expo and you say left side, I'm like, I'll
the good news, what I love about reInvent is that when you say a booth number, it's literally you just look up, but they have them in rows and
the aisle numbers.
They should. I feel like I'm in Whole Foods. I'm like, I know where the gluten-free pizzas are. They're in aisle 4. They're always in aisle 4. But you go to a new Whole Foods, you're like, dang. But like when you say the number, you literally know I'm in 128. All right, that's where I got to go.
So we're going to be at the booth. We're going to be giving away a ton of different prizes. So we do kind of this little Vegas style giveaway where you scan a QR code. It's also friendly for this kind of modern world. You don't have to put your hands in something to grab something.
Right.
You scan a QR code, it randomly pops up on the screen what prize you've won. That's going to be our primary, just having fun on the show floor and giving folks a break from all of the sessions that they're going to. And, aside from that, we love hanging out here and really appreciate, this opportunity. And, a couple of folks from the N2WS executive team are in town. So if there's customers or prospects that want to meet some of the folks on the team, we'll be there for that. And we actually have a bunch of strategic sessions with the AWS teams as well. This is our opportunity as a company to figure out like where's S3 going to go for the next year?
Right.
What do we have to be thinking about? What should we be planning for? So all of that kind of happens at once. So it's a pretty intense week.
Always looking around the corner to see what's happening, but also getting your ears to the ground with AWS folks and what they're dealing with, what they're thinking about, and what they're kind of gearing towards, and how you guys can easily and quickly adapt to the new and latest technology. Obviously, we know we're here at reInvent. They're going to release either new services or functionalities of existing services. So that's always hard to stay up to date and be one of those release partners, or to hurry up and go back and develop something to it. What are you looking forward the most out of reInvent to get out of?
It's definitely talking to customers, because AWS has this kind of motion that they go through where they release products, but really we have that same customer obsession that the folks at AWS have, and understanding what our customers are thinking about, what are their pain points, what do they want us to kind of focus on and build for them. And so that's the thing that I think we get the most out of over the course of the week. We have we'll definitely meet several hundred customers over the course of the week, and just understanding what are their challenges when it comes to data protection and data lifecycle management, and how do we become a better product for them. One of the things that makes N2WS different from other enterprise software companies is our primary sales motion is month to month on AWS Marketplace. And that means that we have to win our customers every single month. We don't, it's a cancel anytime deal where if you cancel on the 15th, we give you 15 days back. It's like, so we really have to stay sharp on making sure that that we're building value, and we're kind of in lockstep with where they're going, and making sure that we're staying important for them.
It's a trick because of it's a partner ecosystem where there's only so much exposure that the product teams can bring to you. So you have to, you obviously get a little bit of a preview, but you still, even with that, have to react pretty quickly, because quite often they've got development partners in the customer ecosystem who are suddenly like broadly using some new service or some new offering within, say, like an S3 class, something like that. By the way, if you can help me find Andy Warfield, I've been trying to track that poor gentleman down for 2 years. He disappeared. He became a principal product manager for S3, and then I keep seeing his Instagram filled with mountain pictures. So either he's doing something really right and he's hiding out, or he's just super busy. But and he's a fantastic human. He's a Vancouverite, and so I'm always he's been with AWS for quite a while. But when it comes to getting that insight and then like the adapting rapidly to like, okay, this is a new pattern, we need to be ready to protect this pattern, but then also our customers actually using that thing, because quite often, of course, Amazon will produce a product and it may not get a huge, wide, broad uptake. Fair enough, right? It's just like any technology. How do you then like measure, where do you put your engineering resources? Because it's got to be listening from every side.
Yeah, that is the challenge. One of the things that we focus on is making sure that engineering is the biggest part of the organization, and we're not a marketing-led company or a sales-led company. We're a product-led company. The product does the talking, and so
with month to month, you got no choice. You are legitimately product-led.
It's a legit product-led motion, and so it's. You don't have to be first to market with everything. You just have to really understand what the value is and how this is going to help your customer. And, it's not about like tapping into like, oh, we need to be launch partner. Launch partner is a marketing opportunity more than anything else. I think it's really understanding, okay, this thing is out there and it's getting rapid adoption. So how do we kind of make sure that we have coverage for that, and we're helping the customer succeed?
First of all, the customer obsession there of month to month is like, you have to, it's not one of those sales you're like, all right, I sold it off. Good luck, you guys, in the back end for the next year. I'll talk to them in like 10 months. You are literally like hands down looking at the customer like, okay, every single month I need to win this customer over. If I'm not doing my job, if we're not keeping an update on the latest services and trends happening in AWS and the integration, they can cancel us anytime. And we must stay laser focused to that.
Well, I think it's a beautiful trust that you can place in your customer and that they would get from you, is the idea that like you can walk away at any time. It was an interesting thing that I worked for a financial services firm, Raymond James. I say it publicly because anybody can scope my LinkedIn. It's publicly available. But one of the foundations of the way Raymond James deals with their advisors is that their book of business moves with them. They're probably the only firm in the industry that does this. Normally, if you leave a firm, your book of business and the customer base is retained at that company. Us, that's the assets under management. But the way that Raymond James works is they would say like, no, if you leave, you take your book of business with you, and they have the lowest attrition rate because they give that trust of like, okay, look, we've got to be the right company for you as an advisor and for your customers, and so that trust really does translate to like continued adoption. It's not free, it's not automatic, but giving that trust of the relationship being as important as the tech, it's big, and not many companies are willing to do that. They want long-term lock-ins, they want to kind of guarantee revenue, predictability, but especially heading to the next couple of years, like we've seen for the last 3 years, there's no such thing as predictability. All your models are broken. It doesn't work.
I think like that is really one of the differentiating things about N2WS is just that, earning the trust and then staying true to that motion, because it's probably easier to hire a lot of salespeople and sell long-term agreements and establish yourselves as a platform. But this combination of saying like, we're a tool, AWS is the platform. We're a tool that's going to help you be more successful on the platform. And not only that, we're going to win your business every month without being annoying, because like that's, also tricky. It's like, you can't call them every single month and ask how happy you are.
And we kind of got stuck I'm torn. So I was in technical marketing, which fell under marketing, and I was fine with it. Like I was like, often it's the office of the CTO. In the end, you're like, it's marketing, which in the end, it's all sales. We're all in sales. Even the engineering people are in sales. It's just that they don't do direct customer interaction as often. But this idea of like, we use phrases and terms and we talk about it, and we talk about sales, life cycles and all stuff like, just this idea of like, again, the faith of, you're at the behest of your customer to like, they're going to use the product, they're going to adopt it. And then we got stuck with NPS, and NPS is, I'm always torn. Like the only people that talk about NPS are people that have basically pumped the system. Like I can send a lot of really cool swag out to people and get a really solid NPS score. Good on the folks that have got it. Not to say that they're juking the stats, but I'm saying they're juking the stats. Like, it's not about NPS score. It's like, I've got an amazing doctor. I don't know what he got in third year, physiology. I don't know the mark he got. That's his NPS score. For me, more the NPS score is the fact I still have my appendix in. Life is good, right? He's making me do the right things. Again, customer focus and trust that like, hey, if you want to leave, no problem. And they're like, okay, I love it.
I lost my appendix. I don't know what that says about my doctor.
I'm all original. I'm the most person I still have. I have tonsils, appendix, wisdom, teeth. I've lost my mind a long time ago. So maybe that was the trade-off. I don't know.
So, I think when you really lean into it. So one of the things that N2WS does differently there also is that, the backups we take are non-proprietary. They're based on EBS snapshots or RDS snapshots, so that when somebody leaves us, they keep everything. Like nothing, we don't lock them out of everything. We don't yank capability away. And even more than that,
I got to pause for a second there. Hang on a second. You literally are so agnostic. You give them, they could literally shut it off, and you do it in native format. So this is, and I didn't mean
a step further. So.
Right. But just even that alone, the fact that this is the biggest problem I bump into all the time with everything we say. Like, I get that you got a great solution, but it's a proprietary solution. We talk all the time about lock-in. But so like, kudos to the team that you're leveraging the right native technologies. It also means that you're way closer to the other adjacent services that people want to use. Because if they want to leverage those backups, those snapshots for other things, there's lots of other adjacent things that can use it. And being non-proprietary, you get a special Eric Disco Posse agnostic award of the day for your approach. I love it.
What do you mean you take it a step further?
Yeah, exactly. Let's dive in now. But wait, there's more.
Staying true to the product-led motion, I try not to oversell it. But the step further is that once you take backups with N2W, the product is available for you in recovery-only mode forever. So you pay us when you want to take backups, right? And you don't pay us per backup. You pay us, by the size of the environment we're protecting. But once those backups are taken, you can, even if you're not a customer, launch the product in recovery only mode and always have access to recover workloads in an orchestrated, automated fashion if you don't want to just go into the snapshot console and do it manually. So they get to
still use the product in
forever.
Recover only mode, even
Forever,
if they're after that.
Yeah.
So wow, that's like really taking it down to like, okay, we trust that you're going to like this product and we're going to give it to you even after you don't want to, pay or be a customer. You can recover that specific stuff.
So I think that's part of, kind of understanding customers' fear in the data protection space. It's like, okay, there's a lot of choices out there, but there's a lot of choices that kind of lock me into these, multi-year commitments. And, or like an intense POC process, it's free to try our product. Once you try it and you buy it, you can always perform recoveries because that's why you that's why you made that choice in the first place. And so, this is all kind of our CTO's vision, and it's really worked for us. It's really kind of putting the customer and what they're concerned with first, and saying, you know what, you don't have to worry about that. We're not going to, store your data in a proprietary way or lock you out of the solution so that if you have a disaster and 3 months from now, you don't know what to do. So, and I think just kind of having that customer obsession and understanding what they're afraid of and saying like, you don't have to worry about that. We're going to kind of solve that problem for you. Is
nice.
That's cool. Now, given that we're, we talked about what you're looking forward to getting out of reInvent and your reInvent experience for the team. Have you got any? You've been to enough of these. We know there's sort of thematic things that come with each event. Often it's like very maybe machine learning centric, storage centric. They've got so many services. It's hard for them to be centric on anything. But do you predict any kind of the big thing? Is there something that you think is going to stand out this year? Because are they in maintenance mode, or is there still an opportunity for a real sort of like light the bridge ahead opportunity in a service for AWS in general, even outside of sort of the data space?
I don't have many predictions, but I think maintenance mode is a very healthy place to be. It's like you can't just build and build and build. You actually have to build and improve and and make sure that the products that you are building and releasing are not just being adopted, but they're being improved upon. And I think there's a lot of room to grow there. So, I wouldn't know whether what to kind of guess on the giant announcement that might change the world. But
well, I think you've hit an important piece there, which is that if all we produce is 1.0 of everything, you're not you can't become $1 trillion company. Like, we couldn't maintain that. It's actually not a terrible thing, but we are attached to the sort of the sexiness of that new code smell, that new service smell, and we have sort of bound AWS to having to say the number of new services they've launched. Like, there's this weird hero metric we've attached. I'm like, well, it's also kind of cheating, because I'm like, you just put the same service you had in 4 different regions and you count each availability zone. I'm like, right. We're messing with some numbers, but I'm with you. Like, there's a beauty in just making it still work, and maybe better, faster, maybe cheaper, whatever, like maybe some more adjacent integrations. Maintenance mode is a good place to be. It's like someone says like, oh, I don't want to be Walmart. I'm like, really? I'd be pretty darn happy being a Walmart. Like, you may not like the level because they don't have Alexander McQueen or something. Like, you want to go to Saks, that's fine. But Walmart's doing pretty good. Not a bad model to use. It's like Nickelback. People say that. They hate Nickelback. You know how much Nickelback sells? Sorry, I didn't mean to make it about a Canadian rock band.
Oh, well,
I have to. I'm required by law to have a Canadian bend on everything. So I this is from the guy that I said that Kubernetes is the Nickelback of technologies, but I'm pretty sure that was I gave a 2-hour interview and that was the headline they took from it. I'm like, oh, really?
So Ezra, we're going to wrap things up here. Is there anything you want to leave with the audience? You want to, follow you? Where can they reach out to you? Obviously, come down to the booth, right? Kind of see you guys. You scan the QR code. But what else? So, where's a good place to get a hold of you guys?
Well, I just want to comment real quick on the main
on Nickelback.
Exactly.
My bad. We can go.
So, our customers get more excited for 4.1.1 than they get for 4.0. 4.0 is that's the new sexy thing. 4.1.1 is where
that's for the analysts, right? Yeah.
Everything the next really kind of working.
Now it works, right? You don't download the first one. You wait a second for the subversion to actually happen, and then.
My favorite release that I had one time was we had 5.9 and then we had a 6.0 and then I was in front of an analyst. I had to get like the analyst roadshow and they're like, one really took me to task. He's like, why is this 6.0? And I'm like, I didn't want to say it's because there's no such thing as 5.10. My engineer said 5.10. I'm like, 5.10 is 5.1, right? Like this is not going to look right in the marketing language. So I was stuck with a marketing problem. So we literally just called it 6.0 and got lambasted amongst the analyst community because they're like, it's got to be a big thing. And like, customers don't want brand new things. They want proven features. They, like you said, they want 6.1 no more than 6.0. It's glad we can be honest and actually say what needs to be said around that.
So the biggest takeaway that I want to share is sign up for AWS Fest. John is our
Oh my God, I can't believe we didn't talk about that. Okay, we got to go another 5 minutes. All right.
Yeah.
So this is going to be one of those long stories, however you want to say it. A couple of years ago, right when the pandemic hit, Ezra reached out to me. I was at AWS and he's like, hey, John, you want to host this fest we're calling, Optimize Your AWS Fest. And being that I was in cloud management tools, I was like, this sounds pretty good. And we started out and we had sponsors there and they would come on and I started out as the host and I'm happy to say I'm still the host from day one. Yes, using Amazon.
First time, long time.
Yeah. And this was really giving back to the community and everybody that was signing up for it was the engineers, the developers who were, trying to get a hold of their costs in there, but they didn't understand it and they wanted a voice from the community. So Ezra and his awesome team at AWS, huge shout out to Jessica for coordinated, Megan for all the graphics for it. But they put this event, they get the sponsors, and then they have this great magician, Gideon, who is awesome. Him and I just got this rapport on set where we would bounce it off and we would just have so much fun. It was it still is to this day unscripted. All right. And then it's turned into the last one we just did. It's 15-minute sessions, and we're getting, hold your ears for this one. We're getting technical influencers from the community. But
I hate the term influencer because I always say I hate when people self-describe themselves as influencers, then I tap out.
Yeah.
I try and remember them like if you haven't read Robert Cialdini, influence means sales.
Well, they'll come on and they'll give their perspective, and we have them from all over the community where we actually go out to them. We see the stuff that they're posting and they're reaching and say, "Listen, this is an event we put on for free for people. Sign up." And I'm not even mentioning the prizes and stuff because that's not the whole basis of it. The folks that get on and are engaging is they want to know how, and some of the information we've talked about skills within the AWS environment to optimize it. We've talked about from community members on some of the releases and the setup for success. We have another event that's happening, and Ezra, just cut me off if I'm stealing some of this because it's pretty we have another event that's happening on the 14th. It's called the reInvent Recap, where we're going to recap a lot of the services and everything that's happened. And I'm happy to say that, N2WS and Ezra team has said, John, we want you to continue hosting these. And we're building off of it. People are allowed to talk, a single thing, or they want to do a podcast style. And I'm going to stop there. Ezra, you get everything?
No, you really nailed it. So awsfest.com is where you can sign up. It's a free event. We give away prizes. We have comedians. And the format of the speaking sessions is it's 15 minutes each speaker. So it's pretty fast paced. And there's no sales pitches.
Yep.
The reason why I agree it's not influencer necessarily, but it's people who have either a story to share or some tips where it'll help the community. So actually on this next session, Tia, who was one of your previous guests, will be featured and talking about the work that she's doing in AWS, and people like that who can really share some insights with the community and in a quick 15-minute format, divided up by some prizes, and John kind of emceeing the whole event, and it's really a lot of fun. This is I don't know, maybe our 5th or 6th one.
I
so
have
far.
no clue. Well, we did stop for just a little bit of time, but we kicked it back off, and we're doing one of these every single quarter, giving back at some of that. We already have one planned for February. We're thinking we're going to base it upon a specific theme, and it just so happens N2WS storage. Hey, there's a good way to optimize some of this. Some of the people that we're going to give a shout out to: James Beswick's joining us, Aaron Booth, Tia's joining us, Chris Williams, and Richard Simon is actually going to join on for some commentary along the way.
Yeah. So some excellent guests for this next one. A lot of people. I think everybody there is going to be on the show floor, and what we're going to try and do is kind of find those those kind of most exciting moments during the course of this week and share it with the audience in these 15-minute formats. And really, if you're listening, you should definitely sign up for it. It's a totally free event, and you'll hear John and some of the other folks. So awsfest.com is where to find that.
Free event, and you get a chance to win some awesome prizes. The last one, we had 2 Oculus headsets and some Keurigs. This one, we're doing PlayStations, right? Those are,
I think, Xboxes
or
Xboxes.
PlayStations.
I don't know. I don't know.
If you can find a PlayStation for me, I
have
a dire need.
Don't worry.
Everybody does.
Everybody's got one. Either way, and to be honest with you, I think people come along not only to hear the informative information. Nobody's selling anything. You're not saying, "Hey, buy this service." In fact, we don't allow the sales pitch. We're we want the information for the audience. What are some of the lessons learned that you've had throughout the years? Some of the things that you learned, and now we're going to be talking specifically at reInvent on some of those. And the 15 minutes, or you get 15 minutes by yourself, or you get 20 minutes with me. Not sure which one you want, but we do a Q&A session, then we do Magician with Gideon, and then you're off. But you have a lot of fun. It's high energy, and it's 3 hours worth of content that comes out of that. And hopefully you go away with knowing one more thing that you could do better within your AWS environment.
Which is fun. I mean, and truthfully, we sort of we hone in on prizes are fun, and we do. But really what it is, it's not necessarily that's the thing you're getting. It's the fact that it's you're showing the value of somebody's time. Well, and that's really, really important.
The prizes are motivation for you to attend live.
Because
live.
And attending live, it's really like a community. There's this live chat and Q&A that happens.
That's right.
And, the last event, Jeff Barr was on the entire event commenting on all the different speakers. And it really is, it follows that same mentality that we follow as a company, which is the product is going to do the talking. Focus your marketing on building community and giving back a little. And so that's really our focus. There's not going to be a speaker from N2W's hard pitching backup software.
Yep.
We're really going to focus on what the audience might want to hear. What was Tia or Chris's kind of key takeaways from reInvent, and really keep it, focused on that.
You had me at community and give back. So
that's exactly this event. Oh, thank you for bringing that up, man. I can't believe I forgot all about that event. This is going to be on December 14th, awsfest.com. Go there, register, sign up. We are going to have a lot of fun, informative, but it's going to be one of those sessions that will be wow, this is pretty cool that you guys put together. You'll sign up for the February one, and you'll be a longtime listener then.
There you go. Well, I'll tell you what, we got another, if you got a few more minutes, Ezra, I know we're going a bit long in the stream. So thanks to folks that are watching the stream. I got somebody I couldn't not, bring on to microphone, Mr. Hirschfeld. If you want to jump up for 1 second, we'll just get you to jump on mic. We've got a lot of stuff coming up, and Ezra and the N2WS team among the folks that are helping to support us being able to bring this conversation to people and just learn from like kind of what's important to people on the ground. So it's great. And we've got another fantastic speaker joining us here, Mr. Rob Hirschfeld. So Rob, welcome to the show. You can hang out, Ezra, stay on if you want, if you got a few minutes. I'm not sure if you need to go anywhere, but
that's what I mean. I was
we're just going to give like 5 minutes, but I want to give a pre-load to what you and I can do, which inevitably, oh boy, Rob and I could go on. We could just keep the stream going for 24 hours. We'll be like Destiny and Vosh. We'll just be like just totally tearing down tech communities and seeing who survives the conversation. But Rob, let's do a quick intro. Let's talk about you and RackN, and then what are we going to have happening this week?
Happy to ground people on what we're doing.
Yeah,
I'm Rob Hirschfeld, CEO and co-founder of RackN, and we are a infrastructure automation company. So we really focus on creating infrastructure as code, reusable, platform agnostic automation. So very API driven. We've been talking a lot about platform engineering lately, and these ideas of ops versus dev interfaces and how to optimize that type of work so operators can support developers better.
Yeah, that's why it was funny. I thought it'd be sort of apropos because talking about Ezra, like this idea of like moving to the application layer, the right abstraction and solving the right problem, that like we're solving these micro problems with a lot of platforms, but going to the core of like what's the actual problem we're trying to solve. And they're hard problems. And that's kind of like what I love, this idea of like, so we got to attack a hard problem, but it's a good learning of like what's actually happening in the ecosystem and seeing the patterns that are playing out.
There's a real paradox here because the developers fundamentally want to choose their tools, their platforms, their sort of, what makes them productive. And what we've been seeing is developers and development teams typically don't align around the same tools or using them the same ways. We're starting to see some alignment, but the need to service and create developer self-service is very real. And when we talk to the enterprise operations team, right, they have this backpack they're carrying of enable development, right? And that's not a simple answer. It's not one thing that you do to enable developer teams. And then on the other side of it, they have a second priority. It's always wonderful to have two first priorities, but they have the second priority of how do I create some consolidation and governance and controls and cost management and security, right? They have all these additional things that they have to get done, but none of it matters if they don't enable development teams.
Yeah, I think this is going to be the problem that we're all going to face is like the audience we've had is not the audience we need. We've leaned on sort of the ops experience as the primary thing, but silos continue. And we as vendors, as even like high level practitioner architects, have to transcend the silos, and we have to. It's a real tear because we're still speaking to the same audience. We're still ultimately driving the behaviors of that same audience, but we have to listen to who they're creating services for.
There's an interesting book. It's called Team Topologies. I'm trying to remember the author's name, but if you crack it open, you'll see that it basically lays out this hyper siloization, if I can coin the term.
There you go. It's official.
We see where it's sort of like
better than SuperCloud. Sorry.
Cut the stream.
Where's the rim shot?
You got to cut. We'll carve this out. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm going to hell for that.
That'll get you some extra nickel back CD. But the idea here is that book really laid out something that for development teams was very empowering, but for operations teams, sort of reads like what are you doing to me?
Yeah.
Because we're authorizing teams to make individual decisions to improve their productivity. And my background is actually in industrial engineering. And going back to Goldratt and the goal.
When you read Goldratt, it was unironic. Like you literally have mapped to exactly what the problem he was trying to solve.
Exactly. And so but you look at that and you're like, wait, we just literally built a factory and told each team to optimize without regard for the system.
Yeah.
And so we, the funny thing is, I don't think that is getting unwound. I think we have created a world in which individual teams are very focused on their own productivity. And at the same time, we have to enable them to work together and share and look at things that they can do system wide. You're just not going to get both at the same time.
So in that, so this is funny. I'm going to say we're going from the metal up, and let's talk about the app down. Ezra, like, do you see these? Like, how often do you see the patterns of like an infrastructure approach versus an application approach? Because this is a blurry line, and we often talk about like selling app down. You're like, well, we think in apps, but ultimately we still deliver in infrastructure. The context of how we do data protection and business continuity is still way, way further down. Like the bits are down here. We have an abstraction of an application, but it's a real challenge. I'm just curious, how much of your conversations are still infrastructure centric versus are you seeing the app as the driving force to how we think about technology?
At N2W, we see both. So we talk to development teams that are deploying on AWS, and they want to make sure that, after they build this and they hand it over to an application team, the application team knows how to protect it and knows how to provide uptime for it. And I think, one of the interesting things that you said is like, it's about connecting people. It's about building tools that, a development team can use and an application team or an infrastructure team can use. And it speaks the same language to everyone. There's a lot of learning curve here, and the world of AWS can be scary, especially, if you think about somebody that's been in information technology or on a data protection team for 15, 20 years, their job role has dramatically shifted. And there's a whole lot of new skills that they have to pick up on. And, that's something that we deal with all the time, is kind of bridging that gap and saying like, oh, okay, this is how it's deployed. And here's some really kind of straightforward ways for you to protect it and make sure that you're kind of checking all the boxes, whether you're, application focused or infrastructure focused. And, also companies are adopting this at all different levels and speeds. So, there's some companies that have gone all in where they, close data centers, and now it's like, top to bottom, they're on AWS, but that's not the normal case. Normally it's like, I'm building a web application, so I'm going to build that on Amazon Web Services, but my kind of rest of my infrastructure might still be, housed on on-premises servers. And so and then, as they get more comfortable with what Amazon Web Services provides and how they can offer higher levels of service, back up more often, recover more quickly, get the mundane tasks out of the way and focus on vision, you see more and more adoption. So, we definitely see both.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I've enjoyed is the underlying theme to it is that it's beyond day two, right? Like I had one team, they said we need to consolidate on a platform that we own for data protection, back in the day. So I'll protect the names. So it rhymed with Fun Life. And so we had a backup product that I got told my distributed team, they said, we already own a backup product, so we need you to use it. And I was like, okay, I understand. And there was this sort of this concept of, what was, new at the time was this idea of like, single full, incremental forever. And it was meant to work great. And they said it's a fantastic backup product. And again, I want to protect the names. It rhymed with Tivoli. But and I got told I had to use this because we were stuck. We were an IBM shop. And fair enough, right? That's just obviously that's a big, deeper tech relationship. And it was a great backup product. But every time I went to restore a file, that file was missing for some reason. I'm like, I think you don't know what a backup product is. It's not just backing it up to say like, check. Like, no, the restore part, the important part to me. And my operations team was like, okay, we needed to go away from the corporate plan to achieve the actual real result that we needed. And it allowed us to then connect and say, okay, well, what's the actual problem we're trying to solve? And then we worked with that team and said, how can we ensure that we test more regularly, do things like create real, true, continuous life cycle day 2+ operations, instead of just be like, hey, we own this product, let's just use it. And like, Rob, you see this all the time too. It's like, hey, we're buying this product. And you're like, well, no. Why are we like, how do we, you're taking processes. If you don't know that process problem, then buying software isn't going to save you.
Well, this is one of the things that I think is really interesting because there's a lot of complexity and people like to run around complaining about the complexity, which is totally legit because we keep adding complexity. But what I think people miss is that it's not about reducing complexity is not about eliminating things, right? In a lot of cases, you can't eliminate things. Like once you have a backup product, it's there and you're going to be maintaining it. And so pretending that you're going to simplify your environment by eliminating it just means you siloize. Now I'm back to my coined word, but you siloize. You're like, oh, wait, we're going to eliminate the complexity by ignoring what happened before and create a new thing. And that new thing becomes a new pocket. And then eventually you have to own it. The way you actually mitigate complexity is through rehearsal. And so when you build automation that drives the process over and over again, that actually reduces the complexity, because what you're doing is you've rehearsed something enough that when it happens, when you need to use it, you actually have the muscle memory, you have the proven processes.
Right.
What you're describing with a file restore, to me, part of the problem is that we don't rehearse file restores except when something broke. And so a lot of what we need to be looking at from a process perspective is making sure that we're constantly exercising all the parts of our process that we care about. And that is something that we don't think about much as we build automation. We're like, hey, I got it done. Good. Box it. Maybe you're day 2 focused and you're like, okay, I'm going to keep running it, or it's going to be idempotent so I can run it a second time. But the truth of it is what you're describing your after day 2 is actually how often are you rehearsing and exercising that automation that you built. And if it's not very often, what you've actually done is you've got a whole bunch of, it's not even technical debt, it's hidden complexity in your system that is going to age and decay and not be ready for use. But it's not just backups; it's across the board.
I love that.
Oh, I think I know this is going to be a hot button for
you. So what we talk about is we tell customers you don't actually need backup plans. You need recovery plans that work. You need you like backup is backup. You can take backups. What you actually need is the button that you click on when things go wrong that you know is going to do what you want it to do. And you have to drill it and you have to test it and you have to have confidence in it before the disaster happens. And so that's everything that you're saying is that ability to rehearse. And I think that's really one of the special things that AWS offers is this like kind of hyper availability of infrastructure. You don't have to wait for the disaster to click the button. You can click it.
I think that's actually key is because when you put together this new tool, you put it in your play and you're like, oh, this is awesome. And then you write this process and it goes into a Word doc and it's like 100 pages long. And you're like, yeah, this is great. We're going to recover all the time, right? And oh my God, we got tickets. We got critical stuff we got to work on. Now we'll get to that one. And that becomes 1 month, 2 months. And then all of a sudden you need it to actually do the work, and you're like, didn't you test this? No, I'm sorry. We had this. We don't have enough time. Having the automation in place to do this and the recovery plan to actually do it and the muscle memory to do this time and time again is like, hey, I need this real quick. All right, you'll have it in about a couple minutes. And then you go back and do your thing and it works.
And the idempotent thing is just to add to that is really important because I've written some fantastic PowerShell scripts and all this really cool stuff. And people are like, this is great. Like I can completely recover an entire distributed system with one click of a button. And like, what happens if you click it? Don't never click it twice. Oh boy, if something goes wrong, don't click it the second time. Bad things will happen because we write brittleness gets written into the scripting. And that's kind of a real pain point.
The thing that we've been doing that people really don't appreciate about like the rack end solution is the extent to which we've been working to make infrastructure as code and automation portable. So our customers are very used to this idea that they can do a dev, test, prod type of environment. And, they really are able to do work where they can exercise systems and then very reliably replicate the automation into the new environments or into secondary environments. And it's transformative because now you can actually come back and say, you know what, if I'm running my test code, my dev code, it's going to work in test. My test code is going to be an exact replica for production. Each production site can be exactly replicated. That confidence of fidelity of automation, and it doesn't mean the automation is identical. The automation is modular and portable so that the differences can be abstracted out and then reused. But it's mind blowing. And what we actually have is customers who are shifting left on their automation, and they're telling their vendors, hey, we want you to run this automation first before we actually take your product, your platform, your infrastructure. Because we want you to have gone through that cycle before we even hit it, because, and this is where it's just like mind expanding. They know if their vendors are testing it, then the tests have high fidelity to their environments, which is a total game changer from that perspective. And then you get reuse of work, and the vendors actually can be like, oh, okay, hundreds of our customers now can be tested in the factory, and they don't even have to worry about it.
Yeah, I think we're at a beautiful spot in the industry, in the understanding of where we, like, what's the right abstraction, what's the real outcome we're trying to get, accepting that what we've done isn't able to solve the problem, and it's not bad, that humans can use software to do better things, and it's going to be a learning curve, and multi-cloud is real and hybrid cloud is real. I said, find me a cloud first organization, I'll find you 4 VMware data centers in their organization somewhere. It's bound to happen. So look, we got a big week ahead. I know we've been streaming like crazy. It's been a blast. And I wanted to thank you both for jumping on. And of course, Ezra, obviously we've got lots of stuff going on. AWSfest.com for folks that want to, I'm looking at the wrong camera. See it. I'm a terrible host here. AWSfest.com for folks that want to get connected and do some really cool stuff. And of course, it's N2WS. It's hard to say
just
after I've been talking all day long.
Not to worry.
Not to worry software. I know, that's fantastic. You win on the marketing side.
Well, thank you.
And Rob over at RackN, so rackn.com. You get a lot of stuff going. We got the bear, the digital rebar bear. I love that. We'll have a lot more, so we'll feature both of you again, I'm sure, with many more conversations. We've got panel sessions coming up this week, so there you go. John, anything to say as we get ready to wind
So
down
I got to
today?
recap, everybody. Don't forget to follow hashtag LV Reinvent 22 for all our stuff, and we are live streaming daily, so we've got another 3 days worth of this and awesome content coming your way. Just some quick things for tonight. Don't forget Monday Night Live with Peter DeSantis. Yes, it is happening from 7:30 to 9 p.m. tonight. If you haven't got any of your badges, haven't been over to the registration, don't forget to head over there. What else am I missing, man? We've got a lot of stuff going on. We will hopefully fix my live stream either way.
We'll have streaming come from all over the place.
Yeah. Don't worry. We're going to carve all this up, get it out to everybody. Huge shout out to all our sponsors, to all our guests who stuck around and hang out. We had an awesome first day event here. A huge appreciation to our crew in the room and behind the scenes making this possible. To Eric. Oh, we didn't say it yet in the last hour, but it is Eric's 50th birthday tomorrow. So
that's right. I am 0.5 centuries old.
Yeah. You're another version old. All right.
Yeah. So looking forward to that. It's gonna be a fun day tomorrow. So we're gonna do a drinking show. No, just kidding.
Yeah. Anytime somebody says reinvent on it, no, just kidding.
Every time we say super cloud, we
All right, folks. Just a good time, man. Thank you. Huge shout out.
We will have a lot of really good chats. So thank you to both of you for joining today. Rob, Ezra, we'll have a lot more to talk about. John, thank you for making this happen. And again, there you go. So I'll wind it down. So make sure you do keep in touch. Hashtag LV Reinvent 22. Go to gtmdelta.com/live. We're going to be live streaming every day. We've got some panels we're going to publish. They're going out on a bunch of YouTube locations. So just keep your eyes on the hashtag on Twitter and LinkedIn. As Rob reminded me, I don't have a Mastodon link for anybody that's where we may have to sort of spin that up real quick so we can share to folks that are on different platforms, because we haven't yet made that outreach. I'm sure by Thursday we'll be on Twitch. We'll be on we'll have our own. We'll have servers all over the place. So it's great. So again, thank you to all the folks who've been watching. It's been great. We're out watching live streams, and we go beyond this. We're going to slice and dice this so we can get sort of the fun points and really bring out, because we've learned a ton from our amazing, great sponsor partners who've made this happen. And with that, make sure you do go to gtmdelta.com/reinvent and click on the links. Let those folks know that you're there. They all have fantastic platforms. They're great teams. We choose our partners, not the other way around. It's a real, true bi-directional thing. We make a point of making sure we partner with people we respect. It's about this community. So there you go. LV Reinvent 22. And that's it. Day one, somewhat complete. It's day one. Say day mine. It's actually day 0, I guess, technically, because it's actually not real day one. Tomorrow's the keynote. We're going to be active. We're going to have a lot more people in the seats. And if you're here, if you're in Las Vegas, hit us up on the Twitter sphere. We'll get you the info to come and join us in suite. We've got a really fancy coffee machine because that's the kind of weirdo that I am. And we got lots of good snacks and food, and we got great partners, great conversation. With that, we're out for today. We'll wind it down. And there you go. As I always say, like, team, hit the stinger.